We are officially 1 month into the season, but we are still here answering fantasy football questions every single day, still looking at your fantasy teams every day. Let's go ahead and let's dive into the news that we've had so far. So Terry McLaurin is supposed to be trending in the right direction. Obviously, the practice report is going to be very important to keep our ears to the ground and see what's coming out of Washington regarding Terry McLaurin over the next few days. Taysom Hill, Foster Moreau will return to practice this week. This actually may be relevant with Juwan Johnson snaps. Calvin Ridley was banged up during week 4. He played just 27 of 50 snaps. So I said that Calvin Ridley was droppable after the performance by the Tennessee Titans and Ridley himself after this past week. Obviously, him being quote unquote banged up does excuse some of this away, but still. Harbaugh says Lamar Jackson wasn't able to return in week 4, but the score did not play a factor. So we have had the reporters coming through and saying, like, you know what, if the game was closer, maybe, just maybe, Lamar Jackson would have actually been able to keep on playing. But they're essentially saying that's the opposite case here. So the Lamar injury may be something that we need to continue to monitor going into week 5. And going ahead and looking at what we have with Ashton Jeanty, honestly, that doesn't none of this other stuff matters, right? Let me see. No, I don't think any. Oh, this was the big thing. Joe Mixon remains without a specific timetable for when or if he'll return this next season. So obviously we will talk about this in depth in the waiver wire video that's going to drop tomorrow morning. So all I would say is please make sure that you are subscribed to the channel. We are streaming every single day answering fantasy football questions. Most of the questions that we answer every day are completely free for the people that come out to these live streams. And we're doing everything we can to hit 300,000 subscribers. So this Mixon news does obviously bump up Woody Marks, who we'll talk about tomorrow. Cedric Tillman's going to miss a few weeks. Some people are going to go and look at Isaiah Bond. Other people are going to realize that, you know what, maybe the wide receiver 2 in one of the league's worst offenses isn't worth the pickup. Tajee Spears expected to be designated to return from IR this week. We'll have 21-day practice window opened. Really bad news for people that are relying on Tony Pollard. Pollard looks like he may be not startable very, very soon. And honestly, in my format, I kind of need Pollard in my second flex spot this week with no Jacobs and no Metcalf. So I'm hoping that Spears doesn't play, but we will see. The belief in San Francisco is Ricky Pearsall is a minor PCL injury. So obviously this will be something that we need to continue to evaluate because there are a ton of injuries happening in San Fran as we've come to get used to. But Malik Neighbors, torn ACL, don't think we need to talk about that. Kind of obvious. And I think that's going to be about it for the news. So let's go ahead. Let's dive in to some of these teams. I will remind y'all, of course, that Underdog Fantasy is doing the biggest promo that I have seen since I have been with them for 5 years. They've been the only sponsor of this channel for 5 years, and I've never seen anything like this. They are doing a play $5, get $100 in bonus funds added to your account if you are a new customer and you use promo code FLOCK. Plus, if you use promo code FLOCK when you sign up to Underdog Fantasy, you're going to be getting free questions for these live streams every single week, and you'll be getting a free pick dependent on the day that you sign up. If you sign up before the games today, that would be a free Bo Nix, higher or lower half a total yard. But obviously, if you sign up after the games today, that'll be a free player for the Thursday slate. But Underdog Fantasy available in almost every single state. I'll leave the link in the description, in the comment section, as well as the live chat. And again, this is the best way for you to support the channel. Get free questions in these live streams, get the $100 added to your account, and get that free pick. But let's go ahead and let's dive into what we have with our first team, which is going to be Isaac Dutcher. Says, Lamb injury hurts, but I am 3-0. We'll see what happened after this past week. And playing to hold on to him. I traded DJ Moore and Aaron Jones for Ladd McConkey. Any other trades that you think could improve the team? Love the channel, dog. Really appreciate you, my friend. Looking at the team in terms of value that it has, we are 6th in the league in value. However, coming into this past week, we were 3rd in points. We were 3-0. Looking at how the team most likely performed, it's going to depend on who we ended up starting. I mean, obviously, Ricky Pearsall didn't have himself a great week. Ladd McConkey fell completely flat. Tyreek Hill, we have yet to see what's going to happen tonight. Derrick Henry fell flat. So I wouldn't be surprised whatsoever if this team actually lost this week. But if I don't know, if you fall to 3-1, does it really matter? 4-0, 3-1, are our strategies that much different? No, you are still in a very, very good spot where you are able to think more so for the long term rather than the short term with this team. Starting off at quarterback, we are rolling with the combo of Justin Herbert as well as Jalen Hurts. I think this kind of goes without being said, but if you were able to go through and if you were able to sell Justin Herbert when you have Jalen Hurts on your team and get a significant upgrade elsewhere, I think that would be very intriguing. The thing is, you just don't really need any upgrades elsewhere, because we go over and we look at what we have with the tight end position. We have Tyler Warren, who's a locked and loaded top 3 name. We have Kyle Pitts as a quality depth piece as well. It's a team that we should be thinking about the long-term outlook for. So as we go over and look at running back and see that we have Derrick Henry, we have Javonte Williams, 2 running backs that we can start with confidence in the short term. And we have Quinshon Judkins breaking out. And our running back 4 is Trevion Henderson for the long-term upside. Realistically, running back's just fine here. I mean, we could use a better player at the very top, but the depth is incredible. Going over to receiver, we have the Lamb injury. We have the Ricky Pearsall injury. So realistically, really the only guys that we can trust as of now are Tyreek Hill and Ladd McConkey. And because of that, you actually kind of need the depth here to hold on to these additional running backs for those flexes until you eventually get CeeDee Lamb and or Ricky Pearsall back in. But ultimately, you have a team where we can afford to wait for that long-term upside. We are not weak at any individual position. It's a start 8 format, so the depth is for sure going to matter more than it would if it was a league where you only started 2 receivers and a flex. We're 3-1, so we can afford to wait for the long-term addition of CeeDee Lamb, for the long-term breakout with maybe Trevion Henderson. So I would say in the short term, we're kind of sitting on our hands and we are waiting to hopefully eventually, and again, this is the hope here, to be able to potentially try to sell a depth piece like Ladd McConkey and Derrick Henry to go and get a true elite level RB1. But you can't afford to sell that depth wide receiver until you get CeeDee Lamb, Ricky Pearsall fully healthy, and or Trevion Henderson coming through with the breakout. Now, the other alternative, again, like we already mentioned, if you could go ahead and if you could possibly send Justin Herbert in a 2-for-1 deal to get an upgrade at running back, that would be ideal. Because when we look at Jalen Hurts, he is a quarterback we can start every single week, kind of regardless of matchup, averaging about 20 points per game. If we go through and look at the teams that are worst in your league at QB, this team is Dak and Geno. Maybe they'd be interested in Justin Herbert and a running back not named Derrick Henry for Bucky Irving. I mean, if you could go Herbert and Judkins for Bucky Irving, that would be an absolute no-brainer. If you could go like Herbert and Ladd McConkey and buy the dip on A.J. Brown for a Jalen Hurts stack, I wouldn't mind that either. And then you can kind of say the same thing about us potentially looking to sell Kyle Pitts. If you could find a team that would be interested in buying, like this team has Kelsey and Fannin, where you could try to send Pitts and maybe Ladd McConkey and get over to Deebo Samuel, sure, we'll go ahead and we'll explore that as well. But I think that you're in a really good spot. I think that I'm probably not going to be doing anything other than trying to sell the backup quarterback, backup tight end for now, because you can't really afford that 2-for-1 upgrade with the skill positions, given the fact that we have CeeDee Lamb and Ricky Pearsall both banged up. And then going over and looking at what we have with the options for the flex plays, let's keep monitoring Brandon Ayuk, and you could eventually look to potentially drop Brian Robinson for Ayuk himself. But I really appreciate you. I'm going to send you over some free questions just in case there's anything else that you wanted to follow up with. I'd be super happy to take a look at it for you. Now, let's move this over to our next question. This is going to be from Sego Bands. Says, how's it going, Mason? Hope you spanked them week 4. Yes, sir, we did. We are looking like we're 4-0 at this point. Yeah, it made me feel better about my other league, but this one, I'm 1-3 at the moment. I'm hoping to bust any moves. Let me know what your thoughts. I need help, please. So we are pretty low when it comes to value on this roster. We are currently 8th in this league out of 10 teams in the league analyzer with value. Coming into this week, we are also 8th in points scored as well. You are saying that we are now 1-3 after the week. And we look at quarterback, we have Lamar Jackson. A lot hinges on the health of Lamar. Now, in terms of options on the waiver wire, it's not that bad. Like, you could realistically go through and easily cut Darius Slayton, even with the Malik Neighbors injury, to go and pick up Kyler Murray, which is something that I for sure would look to do. Then going over and looking at running back, we have Hubbard, we have Benson, we have Mason. 3 running backs that we could realistically start. Now, of course, the only guy that I'm really excited to start here in the short term is actually going to end up being Jordan Mason, where the others are going to be slightly tougher plays. And then wide receiver, long term, we have Rashee Rice coming in. That's really going to help this team. But short term, if you're 1-3, we need to be thinking about how we can get points in this starting lineup right now rather than future value. So my thing that I absolutely hate to say, especially because I think that you are selling low on Rashee Rice. I think Rice is a phenomenal buy low candidate. My team's 4-0, so I'm for sure going to be going out there and sending out offers to pick up Rice. I think you should be trying to sell him with the running back to go get an elite RB1. Like, if there's a world in which you can sell Rashee Rice and Chuba Hubbard to go get to a top 5 running back in fantasy, I think that'd make a ton of sense. And it doesn't just have to be Hubbard. It could be Trey Benson, really any of the running backs that people would be wanting to buy. And if we were looking at like realistic rankings, once Rashee Rice is back, I think Rice is going to be a top 10 wide receiver, but it looks like Chris Godwin had 10 targets his first weekend. So you have like Chase and Wilson that we can start at wide receiver in the short term. We have Godwin, DJ Moore that we have the long-term depth with. So I would try to send Rashee Rice and one of the running backs, get the best running back that we can in the short term. I would use the open roster spot. I would probably pick up Kyler Murray just in case the Lamar injury is serious. Then I would also cut Elikeo Manor and Darius Slayton for the combination of RJ Harvey and probably Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, just to shoot for the upside with the rookie running backs, that if their roles were to go in the right direction, I think we could be excited about them. But outside of that, I don't necessarily know if there's, I mean, I know that's a lot we just throw at you, but we probably want to make that trade, sell Rice for a better running back, make those 2 waiver wire pivots on top of it, and send up a prayer that Lamar Jackson is going to be good to go. But I really appreciate you. I'm going to send you over some free questions, my guy. I really hope that I was able to help you out in some way with this. And again, if there's anything else that you want me to take a look at, I wouldn't mind at all. Please send that over to me. I'd be super happy to check it out for you. Now, let's move over to our next one. This is going to be from Colo. Says, a league mate's willing to trade Lamb for Tyler Ward and Judkins. Is this the move that I make? I'm likely to be 3-1 after this week. Do you have any suggestions for the team? So youth movement here. We are currently 10th in this league when it comes to value. Coming into the week, we were 7th in the league when it comes to actual points scored. Judkins performed very well. I guess maybe Quentin Johnston was in a flex who played well. Herbert, Tyler Warren. Obviously, Warren was great. You sent this 20 hours ago, so I don't know if like how confident we are that we're actually moving to 3-1, but we're either going to be 3-1 or 2-2. It's a league in which the depth's going to matter. You can start up to 8 players weekly. So looking at what we have at quarterback, tight end, not going to be as important as a league in which you only start 2 receivers in a flex. If you are 3-1, obviously we can afford to think about long-term value. And long-term value would say that trading Judkins and Tyler Warren for CeeDee Lamb would be a great move after this week. And, I did not even see this with the Bucky Irving injury. Let me see if I need to dive into this. Is Bucky down? What just came out with Bucky Irving? We went over the injury stuff at the beginning of the stream. I have not seen anything with Bucky. You're all trolling me in the chat. Okay, I see an hour ago it was reported that he's going to get an MRI. On the ankle. The video looks gross. Yes, I guess this will be something to monitor. Bucky Irving is dealing with an undisclosed injury and awaiting an MRI for results. Ugh. I'll send up a prayer that Bucky Irving's okay. Rachaad White is an absolute must roster running back at this point. So for you, I would go through and I would drop Kyle Monangai. I would drop Calvin Austin, both of them right now, and pick up the combination of Tyler Algier and Rachaad White. If you are 3-1, I think the idea of trading Tyler Warren and Quinshon Judkins for Lamb is appealing, but we do have to think about what our starting lineup would be afterwards. You're probably picking up Brenton Strange to put inside your starting lineup. Then we would have, I guess, Byshell Tootin at running back 2 in the short term, assuming we don't get anybody interesting off waivers. Looking at what we have at wide receiver, we'd have Nico, Higgins, Quentin Johnston, and one flex. Your other flex spot would be what? You can't trade for CeeDee Lamb. I'm sorry. It's a league in which you got to start a total of 6 combined running backs and receivers. And if we're looking at the combination of our players at the moment, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 startable names. Because we have the Aaron Jones, Terry McLaurin injuries, you go and trade 2 of our startable names for CeeDee Lamb, you're going to find yourself in a really, really tough spot. So I don't like that idea. I think that your team's constructed very well. I think that the depth matters here. You need to kind of wait until we get these injured players back. Then maybe at that point we can look to sell some depth to get an improvement inside the starting lineup. Looking at what we have with waiver wire pivots, I'd for sure drop Kyle Monangai. I'd for sure drop Calvin Austin right now for the combination of Tyler Algier as well as Rachaad White. But let me send you over some free questions just in case there's anything else that you want to follow up with. But I'm sorry, I don't necessarily know if you can. I don't know if you can afford that Lamb deal. I think you kind of want to sit with your roster as is because depth's going to matter in your format. Just make those few waiver wire pivots, regardless of if you're 3-1 or 2-2. Now let's move this over to our next one. It's going to be from Schlinky. He says, hey Mason, could really use your advice on what to do here. The squad's looking good, but we're also 0-6. Luckily, we scored like 200 points this week, so we're going to be 2-5. What the hell? How the hell do you go from 0-6 to 2-5? You score 200 points, so they start taking away losses? I need to be in this league. London and Rome will be on bye next week. Do we look to deal to buy wins now or hold and pray? Trade strategy would be great as well. So here's the thing that's honestly really relevant to discuss right now, because I'm also dealing with some buys with Jacobs and Metcalf myself. So, yeah, I know he meant 2-6. We're just trolling. But you trade like 2-6, right? You definitely need to optimize for points in the starting lineup in the regular season to make sure we can get to the playoffs. You have a player that's on a week 5 bye. Say you go through and you trade that player because we want points right now. We want to make sure that we can stay in it. All of a sudden, you're just going to be in a spot in which you are just kicking the can down the road, and whatever player that you trade for is probably not already gone through their bye week. So if you trade Rome for a wide receiver that's going to be playing a bye in week 8, it's like, who cares? It really didn't do anything at the end of the day. There's a big difference between trading like the suspended players, trading the injured players that are going to be missing games and then have a bye as well, versus just trading a player due to their bye week. Now, that's very different to opposed when we're in week 11 and you're trading for players that have already gone through their bye versus the players that haven't. But if you're trading a player that's about to go through their bye for a player that's going to go through their bye later in the season, literally makes no difference. They're going to play the same amount of games. Now, we are the number 1 team when it comes to actual value on this roster. However, coming into the week, we are near the very bottom in points scored. And the reason for that is Ashton Genty, Chase Brown had been horrendous, horrible. Some of the worst players in the league. Quarterback, we have Drake May. is Drake May a super exciting name that we're starting every single week, regardless of matchup? Realistically, probably not. He definitely looks great. Don't get me wrong. Like, you go through and you look at this and he's averaging about 20 points per game. He's been incredible, but it's such a small sample. I would still think that maybe you want to roster 2 quarterbacks here just in case Drake May does fall off after a small sample of dominance. Then going over and looking at the waiver wire, we could say, well, never mind. There are no good quarterbacks on waivers. You have, I guess, Michael Penix, which I guess you could drop Rico Dowdle for Penix, to be honest. Looking at what we have when it comes to running back, we have Ashton Genty looking like a solid RB1. Chase Brown, who we'll see tonight, he's still been getting volume. The issue is obviously the fantasy points have been horrendous just because the offense and the offensive line have been so bad. But Chase Brown, running back 2 for now, is okay. RJ Harvey, Byshell Tuden, Caleb Johnson are all long-term pieces that are probably worth roster spots at the moment. But realistically, a team that's 2-6, clearly we would like to sell long-term pieces for points in the lineup right now. The issue is with these rookie running backs, nobody at all is going to be paying for them, so you're kind of stuck with them for the moment. It's a league in which we can start 4 wide receivers weekly, and thank God we have Puka Nacua, Drake London, Rome Odunze, Quentin Johnston. So this team, I'm not doing anything for it right now. Do not trade the players just because they're dealing with bye weeks. You're going to trade for other players that just have bye weeks later on. I know it sucks, but we just kind of got to get through it. The scenario in which you make a trade, which there is no scenario in which you're making a trade this week, in my opinion, or actually today, that is. But the scenario in which you eventually make a trade is going to be Chase Brown tonight looks horrible. Chase Brown still looks like he is not a startable player. And then in that instance, what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to sell Tyler Warren and Chase Brown to go get a viable running back and play tight ends off waivers. Because generally it's going to be easier to find those tight ends off the waiver wire as opposed to it would be to find a running back in terms of guys that we can just put into the starting lineup in the short term. So for now, don't do anything. Let's see how Chase Brown looks tonight. If it looks like he's not going to be startable, then sadly you may have to sell the elite tight end for a great running back. If Chase Brown looks like he's going to be A-okay, then at that point we're going to be chilling as is. But it really hinges on that running back too. But I really appreciate you and really hope I was able to help you out in some way with this. And I know you're always out in these live streams with me, my guy. Let me make sure that you have those free questions so you can send them in whenever you want. I think in a 12-team full PPR start 8 format, I love the fact that we're number 1 in this league at wide receiver. And I think we're going to be in a good spot going into the future. Now let's move this over. This next team's going to be from Spencer. Now, before we get to this, Spencer, it does look like we hit 100 likes on this live stream. So we're going to owe some people in the chat some free questions. So let's go ahead and let's send them out. And again, I want to reiterate that we give away free questions in every single live stream that we do. The vast majority of questions that we will answer will be free from people just hanging out with us in the chat. We're doing everything we can to get to 300,000 subscribers. So all you got to do to qualify for those free questions is drop a like on the live stream and then drop your flockfantasy.com username in the chat. So if you win, I know who to send those free questions over to. And also, if you wanted to get guaranteed free questions, you always could by taking advantage of the offer that is currently there on Underdog Fantasy, where if you use promo code FLOCK, you are going to get free questions for these live streams. And on top of that, Underdog is doing the biggest promo that I have seen since I've been with them over the past 5 years, where they are doing a play $5 and get $100 in bonus funds. Again, I've been with Underdog. They've been the only sponsor of this channel for 5 years now, and I've never seen anything like this from them. But use code FLOCK. You'll get the $100 bonus. You'll get a free pick as well, a free Bo Nix higher lower pick, more than less than half a total yard for tonight's game. Free questions for the live streams, which we're doing every single day. And I'll leave that link in the description and live chat. Now let's send out our first free question from Vlee. Really appreciate you hanging out with us in the chat, my friend. And let's see if I can find you on the site. And hopefully you're not just sending your YouTube name. Hopefully this is actually your site name. Vlee just found you and just sent you over that free start set question. Really appreciate you hanging out with us. Now, Big Shaq, let me see if I can find you and let me send you. Actually, I'll send you over some free trade questions. Since we are super early in the week on Monday, let's send out some free trade questions. And that kind of reminds me, let me make it where people can't buy start sit questions for this stream. Because I'm going to be honest with everyone here. I don't even know what the week 5 matchups are. So I'm not in a position in which you should be asking me start sit questions for week 5 on a Monday. Okay, but let's now check this out for Spencer. Says, need help analyzing my next moves, trades, waivers, etc. None of my players are essentially droppable, but I have a lot of boom bust with bad bust that I need to replace for consistent week-to-week points. So this is a 10-team start 8 PPR format. It does look like this may actually be a tight end premium league as well, which is Spencer, and you're in the live chat. If you want to confirm nor deny, that would be interesting. So looking at the options on waivers, my guy, I don't really see much that we could look at. Like the best waiver wire pickups would probably be, in terms of the skill positional names, the combination of Romeo Doubs and Caleb Johnson. Like if this was not a tight end premium format, you could talk me into dropping Harold Fannin for Romeo Doubs. But if it's a tight end premium format, I don't necessarily know if I can tell you that, because obviously Fannin does have a decent little ceiling here. Looking at what we have at quarterback, we have the elite level option with Jalen Hurts. Beyond that, we don't need a roster another. I know we have quality QBs on waivers, such as like Jared Goff, but I don't necessarily think we need to worry about it. Running back, we have Gibbs, Benson. Really like to see that. Long-term upside pieces of Trevion and Byshell Tootin in terms of where this team should be going long-term versus short-term. We are 1-2 coming into this past week. I don't know if we are 2-2 coming out of it, but if we lost and we're 1-3 instead, then maybe you look to sell the long-term upside and try to package together like Trevion Henderson and Jordan Addison for a better running back, or Trevion Henderson and Matthew Golden to a running back that you can start right now. Because again, it's a start 8 format, so realistically, we could throw that third running back into a flex. But if you are selling Trevion Henderson at this moment, obviously you're going to be selling at a low point, which I would really like to avoid, but I don't particularly know if we could say that like this team's comfortable starting Adams, AJ Brown, Olave, Waddle as our 2 wide receivers and our 2 flexes every single week. Tight end, we're great. So if we're 2-2, this team's just fine. We can get by in the short term with the team that we have and wait for the long-term upside of a potential Trevion Henderson breakout. However, if you have fallen 2-1-3, then at that point, I do think you have to try to sell Hendo in a depth wide receiver to get to a running back upgrade for our flex spot, somebody that we can trust right now. And in terms of waiver wire pivots, if it's a tight end premium league, I'd probably hold on to everybody that we have. If it's not a tight end premium format, you could look at dropping Harold Fannin for Romeo Doubs. If you really like Romeo Doubs, you could drop Keon Coleman for him anyway. But I think your team's honestly in a really good spot construction-wise. It just kind of comes down to if we have a bad record and if we need to sell Hendo at a loss, which is something I would like to avoid if possible. But I really appreciate you. I just sent you over some free questions. So if there's anything else that you'd like to follow up with, I'd be super happy to take a look at it for you, my guy. But let me move this over to our next one. This is going to be from D's. This is a super message where we didn't actually put anything in there, so I'm going to send you over a free start sit question. My friend, if you're going to send in a super message, you kind of got to put something in the message box for us to see it. Let's move this over to Straw Mark. Says, going to be 1-3 because we started Pollard over Judkins, so it's been a tough start, but feel good about the team overall. Any thoughts for what we can do with A.J. Brown and my tight end position? Well, good news, bad news is I was right there with you starting Tony Pollard this week just based off volume and volume alone. A good news is you have Quinshon Judkins for the future, so we don't have to rely on Pollard anymore. So here's the thing with A.J. Brown, and I'm saying this half jokingly, half serious. So I tweeted this out. Don't know if y'all saw this. If you don't have a Twitter, probably it's for the best, but if you do, you can follow me. I mainly just tweet out jokes, and I use it for looking up, like, going to research things myself. Like, you can see I rip screenshots of tweets, and I use it for news. Like, I'll just go to Underdog NFL because they conglomerate all the fantasy football news, so I can just kind of get a recap of everything. But anyway, I tweeted this out, and it's halfway a joke, like, obviously. But there is a little ounce of truth. Every joke has a good ounce of truth. Said A.J. Brown's the first wide receiver to put his fantasy football points above his NFL team success. That's what I want to see with the players that I draft. Like, looking at the A.J. Brown tweet, it says, if you're not welcome, not listened to, quietly withdraw. Don't make a scene, shrug your shoulders, and be on your way. Next tweet, I love y'all with all, actually, he's tweeted this one first. I love y'all with all my heart. So, realistically, we know that A.J. Brown's a wide receiver that's not going to sit there quietly if he's not getting the ball. It doesn't matter if the Eagles go 17-0 and win the Super Bowl. He'll cry about it. So for that reason, I actually do think you're in a nice little spot for an A.J. Brown bounce back, A.J. Brown's possible buy low. Bucky Believer, I'll show you the Bucky Irving stuff in a second. Let me look at this team first. But yeah, like, the fact of the matter is with A.J. Brown, nobody is going to be buying on him. Nobody's going to be buying him. So he's on your team. It's a 2 wide receiver, 1 flex format. So having the elite level quarterback's great. We have Josh Allen. Like, Allen's been good so far this season. Don't get me wrong. I have Josh Allen as well. But we need more week 1 type performances. We need more weeks where he goes out there and he just drops the hammer. We really haven't had that so far. He's given you 3 top 5 performances, but there are going to be some weeks where Josh Allen wins you them by himself in a league in which you only start 2 receivers in a flex. Running back, we have Bijan, Quinshon. Love to see that RB1, RB2 combo. We have Pollard as a depth piece. We have Algier as the premium handcuff and Caleb Johnson as someone that could potentially look to get better. Wide receiver, the depth's not going to matter much. We have Adams, A.J. Brown, Igbuka. So we have 3 startable receivers. So we're in a good spot at receiver. Tight end, we have Harold Fant and Evan Ingram. Obviously, I would say that this is probably the worst position on this team. I would consider cutting Trey Tucker for Wan'Dale Robinson personally. Y'all know I'm not a big Trey Tucker guy. We talked about it in the waiver wire video. After the game in week 3, we said don't go and immediately start him. This is just kind of a boom bust, a best ball name. So now that you have the Neighbors injury, I'd probably cut Trey Tucker for Wan'Dale. Tight end, we'll see what Evan Ingram does. But if we were going to want to upgrade a position, I would like to upgrade tight end here in a league in which you only start 2 receivers in a flex, but you really only have 1 expendable wide receiver. You really only have 1 expendable running back. So realistically speaking, like, you don't have the extra piece that we could very easily trade for the improvement at tight end right now. Like, you don't have just Devontae Adams isn't our wide receiver 3 that we could send for Tyler Warren, right? I think you're kind of stuck with this roster as now. I think if you could send Matthew Golden and Harold Fant in to go get a short-term tight end upgrade, I think that would be very appealing. But again, it's going to be much, much easier said than done. And this team should be better going into the future now that we have the Quinshon Judkins breakout. I think Igbuka is going to be better. You could try selling Igbuka if you want, but I just don't see any world in which you're going to be successful in doing so. Like, the hope should have been that Matthew Golden pops off against the Dallas Cowboys, and then all of a sudden we have 4 wide receivers and we can easily trade one for a better tight end. But because Golden doesn't look reliable, I can't tell you to trade Igbuka. I can't tell you to trade A.J. Brown. Can't tell you to trade Devontae Adams. So like I would try sending Matthew Golden and a tight end for a better option. But the realistic scenario is you're probably not going to be able to do so. You're probably sitting with this team as is. You're just going to hope that we get a bounce back from A.J. Brown. You're going to cut Trey Tucker, pick up Wan'Dale Robinson. And I think that's it. Let me send you over some free questions, my friend. Really appreciate you and really hope that I was able to help you out in some way with this. Now, let's move this over to our next question. This is going to come out from Chase. Says, give him AJ's spot. Should we try to trade AJ for a running back? Here's the thing, my guy. We just talked about this with the previous team review. There's no world in which you're going to be able to sell AJ Brown easily. Like if you could sell AJ Brown for CeeDee Lamb, by all means, go for it. I'll tell that to kind of anybody in this. But like I am Metcalf on my own team. You're in a 10-team, 2 wide receiver, 1 flex league where we have plenty of wide receiver production. So 100%, your team's not even going to notice that Marv and Metcalf are gone. Trade them for CeeDee Lamb. That's a no-brainer. Now, Krako coming through with our next trade says, really need another wideout right now. We got Igbuka and Jamar. Allen to Lamar downgrade. Jacobs to Nico. I don't know. I think this all hinges on Lamar Jackson's health. I think if Lamar Jackson is healthy, I am completely fine making this move to get Lamar and the additional wide receiver if you are struggling at the position. But if Lamar Jackson's going to miss some time, it's going to come down to Josh Allen. So, I mean, I would much prefer Josh Allen. So I think you kind of have to wait on this, to be completely honest with you, my friend. But let's move this over to our next question. This one is going to be coming out from Donovan. This is a team review. Says, need your advice to help salvage his team. Going to be 1-3 after this week. Not sure if I should hold out till Lamb's back or send T. Moore and Benson as a package for a better receiver. Love the content. Hope you go undefeated in the Flock League. Really appreciate you, my friend. And let me send you over some free questions just to make sure that if there's anything else that you want to follow up with this team, I'd be super happy to check it out for you. So if we're 1-3, it's going to be tough to wait for Lamb to get back, right? It's a 2 wide receiver, 1 flex format. We are 3rd in the league with value. We have the need for an elite quarterback because you only start 2 wide receivers and 1 flex. So I really do like the fact that we are sitting here with, I don't know. I like the fact that we have Jalen Hurts. Jonathan Taylor's going to be able to win you some weeks on his own. So quarterback, we don't need to do anything. I would cut Caleb Johnson for Tyler Algier. I would cut Darnell Mooney for Romeo Dobbs. Those are 2 waiver wire pivots that I would make. 1-3 team where we are incentivized to build around the short term. Jordan Mason's a great flex. So here's the issue with your team. Like, I completely understand the thought process of like, oh crap. And I'm in the same boat as you are. Like, I have great running backs to put in my lineup. I have great running backs to put in my flex spots, but I have friggin' T. Higgins and DK Metcalf in my starting lineup. You have T. Higgins and DJ Moore, and you have Stephon Diggs as well. We have kind of similar teams here. So I understand the instant thought of like, oh, let me go ahead and let me try to make a move where we sell a running back and get an upgrade at wide receiver. And a lot of people in the Flock League have been reaching out to me for weeks trying to get my running backs. Like, I've probably had almost everybody in the league send me a trade for one of my RBs. And every single time that I talk to them, I say, well, you know what? These running backs are hitting my flex. If you're sending me a wide receiver, I need a wide receiver that's going to be better than whatever I'm putting in my flex right now. Because you're in that same boat. You trade away Trey Benson and DJ Moore to get a better wide receiver too, then you're telling me Stephon Diggs is in your flex spot? So I would actually say that you need the 3 running backs because you need to put them in an RB1, RB2, and the flex. You go ahead and you sell one of your running backs, get an upgrade at wide receiver, then my friend, you're in the same exact situation that you otherwise would be. So I actually think that this is a team where even though the depth doesn't matter much, we essentially have none of it. We have no depth on this team. which is fine until you get the CeeDee Lamb injury and you're 1-3. So what I would look to do in that instance is I think you got to sell Lamb. I hate to say it. But if you could take CeeDee Lamb and a depth piece like CeeDee Lamb and Byshell Tootin, especially now that Lamb's 1 week closer to returning, and send him over to a wide receiver that's just producing right now, go and get Jefferson, go and get Chase, go and get one of those wide receivers that probably will be ranked below CeeDee Lamb once Lamb is back, but is actually going to be giving you points inside the starting lineup. That may actually be something that you need to look to do. If that's the way that we get a better wide receiver in the lineup over DJ Moore, which obviously is something that we want to do, but you go through and you sell a running back to accomplish that, you're just all of a sudden going to have an issue in your flex. And again, short-term production is going to matter more for long-term upside for us because of the situation we find ourselves in at 1-3. And then that all goes without saying. Like, I would like to upgrade tight ends, but tight end's going to be a luxury position, and we have bigger fish to fry right now because we don't have our wide receiver and we don't have our, essentially we don't have our wide receiver room in order. But I really appreciate you. I really wish I had more for you, my friend. I sent you over some free questions. If there's anything else that we are able to help with, I'd be super happy to try to help you in any way that I can. But let's move this over for Krakow. This is a trade where we are sending Allen for Lamar, downgrade. Kyron for Walker, downgrade. Kittle, we're getting Nico Collins back. I think this is very similar. Yeah, this is the same thing. So he really wants a wide receiver. Again, I hate to answer it this way, but if I'm in a similar boat, right? I have Josh Allen. I could use some wide receiver help. The literal team with Lamar Jackson's trying to trade me wide receivers. But I would not trade Josh Allen for Lamar Jackson until I get confirmation that Lamar Jackson is good to go this week. So I'm sorry, my friend. Like, I just don't see why or how you'd be willing to take on this kind of risk at the moment. I'm holding on Josh Allen. Colo with another trade. This is Judkins, the big Q, Tyler Warren for Pittman, Lamb, and Njoku. Yeah, Chief. The big Q versus Michael Pittman. Obviously, nobody's a bigger fan. I mean, literally, these three players I went all in on in underdog drafts this year. Like, I hope I'm wrong. But if you have a winning record and you can wait for CeeDee Lamb's going to crush the other side once he is healthy. Now, let's move this over to our next team, which is going to be It's JP. Point per completion, records and points aren't accurate. I'm 3-1 now. Yes, sir, the week hasn't rolled over, so the league analyzer doesn't know yet. Unfortunately, traded Jamar Pollard Fannin for Neighbors and Sharps. I would have loved the deal before the week, but oh my gosh. Looking at what we have now. Oh, dear God. It's a 14-team format. We fall into 6th in the league analyzer from the top spot. Okay, this team's way better than I was expecting. I was expecting your team to be absolute garbage with the Malik Neighbors injury. My gut reaction was going to say like, oh, 14-team league, you lost Malik Neighbors. I'm sorry, you lost the league. But you have a great team in a 14-team format. We have Justin Herbert at QB, obviously a high-end QB1 in a 14-teamer. Running back, Amari Hampton, very clearly a top 14 RB. Clearly an RB1. We have Cam Scat, clearly an RB2. We have Rashad White, who looks like he may be a must-start running back if Bucky Irving is actually injured. Here's what I'm going to do real quick, just to make sure that anybody who's not in this live stream but's using the website. So obviously there are more people using the website than are in this stream. I need to move up Rachaad White dramatically in our rankings and move Bucky Irving down just to make sure if anybody's using the trade calculator, it is accurately represented. I'm going to move Bucky down to RB 11 for the time being. And I'm going to move Rachaad White in our rest of season rankings up to RB 32. Like, I'd rather have him over Ja'Cory Cross-Merritt. So let's update those ranks because that is going to be something that's very relevant. Because, like, Rachaad White could turn into a league winner. Looking at wide receiver, Tet, fine wide receiver 1 in a 14-team league. Egbuka, phenomenal wide receiver 2 in a 14-teamer. Ricky Pearsall, great wide receiver 3. Obviously, the injury is a little bit shaky. Wide receiver 4, Keenan Allen. Love to see it in a 14-team format. Downs, quality, depth. I thought your team was going to be cooked. I thought you were going to have no shot here in a 14-teamer. But honestly, you have a great squad. There's no trade for you to make. Like, I realistically don't see anything that's expendable. You lost Malik Neighbors. If Neighbors was good to go, I'd be trying to sell like Keenan Allen and a running back to get an RB upgrade, or Keenan Allen and a Justin Herbert to get a QB upgrade. But now all of a sudden it actually matters a ton for what you have at wide receiver with no Neighbors. So I love your team. I would cut Caleb Johnson. I would pick up Woody Marks. I would cut Malik Neighbors. I'd pick up Alec Ayomanor, and I would hope that Rachaad White is about to turn into a league-winning flex play for you. But let me send you over some free questions just in case there's anything else that you want to follow up with. I can't imagine how strong this would have been if you weren't. Why doesn't this let me click? Do I have to sign out and sign back in? If you weren't dealing with the Neighbors injury. But let's move this over to our next one. And come on, load for us. Thank God. Please tell me the site's not down. There's the other voucher. Perfect. We're good to go. I think that this is the first week so far this season that, and let's all applaud the devs real quick. Let's all applaud the devs. Thank you. Thank you, dev team. I'm going up against them this week in the Flock League, so I'm going to be clowning on them any chance I get. But the site has seen an all-time high in traffic, like every single day. It is essentially a new all-time high in traffic for the site. And because of that, every week so far this season, before week 4, week 1, week 2, week 3, we dealt with site outages every single week, and we had to upgrade the database. However, they built in some efficiencies where now they're caching some stuff instead of reloading it every time. So this is the first week we haven't had any outages. Okay. Now, let's move this over to our next one. Turn Theory says, how long are we streaming for? Probably going to be streaming until kickoff. Yeah, because it's not that far away. But Mr. Nate Garcia says, hey, love the content. Look at a trade for these guys. The person who has them is 0-3. Do I do this? 100%. If you have a winning record and you could sell JSN for CeeDee Lamb and Brian Thomas, like once Lamb, I wouldn't have told you this before this past week, but Lamb's now 1 week closer to returning. So yeah, go ahead, grab them. I have JSN and Lamb ranked back to back. I have JSN ranked 1 spot higher, but if you have a winning record and you can wait for it, let's do it. Okay. Now let's move this over, and we just hit 300 likes on the stream. So let's go ahead and let's send out some more free questions. Again, I do want to remind y'all, we are answering free questions in this live stream literally every single day. You're going to be able to see that the majority of the questions that we answer in this stream are free ones. All you got to do is drop a like on the live stream, be subscribed to the channel, and drop your flockfantasy.com username in the chat. So you can win some free questions. And also there's a way that you can get guaranteed free questions for these live streams. And that's by taking advantage of the offer that we have on Underdog Fantasy, where Underdog Fantasy right now is doing the biggest promo that they've ever done, at least since I've been with them over the past 5 years. They've been the only sponsor of this channel for 5 years now. But they have a new promo where it's you play $5, you get $100 added to your account if you're a new user. And if you use code FLOCK, you're going to get free questions for these live streams, and you'll get a free Bo Nix pick, more than less than half a total yard for the games tonight. The link to Underdog Fantasy is in the description and comment section. It is available in almost every single state. But let's send out some free questions. For now, let's send this one over to Teo113. Let's see if I can find you on the site, my friends. I cannot find you. I don't know if you used code FLOCK when you signed up to flockfantasy.com. If not, you can add it to your account page. And then next time I look you up, I can actually find you. Now, let's send this over instead to Soft Replacement, if I can find you. And I can't find you either. Am I spelling this right? S-O-F-T-R-E-P-L. Yeah. I'll copy and paste the same exact thing I said to you. Let's send this over to Fantasy Genius. Just found you, my friend. Thank you for always hanging out with us in the stream. Just sent you over that free trade question. Let's send this next one over to OG Bradford. Long time member of the flock. Always happy to see you, my guy. And just found you on the site and just sent you over a free trade. Looks like we've sent you a ton of free questions so far this year. Okay. Let's move this over to our next question. This is going to be from Bouncy Accountability. It says JSN's wide receiver 1. Bijan is RB1. Everybody else is mid. What do we do? We have Chase Brown, Keenan, and Lattimore at the flex, Hawk at tight end, and Jared Goff. So it's really going to depend if you are a league in which you only start 2 wide receivers in a flex. And if you're in a league where you only start 2 wide receivers in a flex, which it sounds like that's what you're describing, you don't do anything. Realistically, you hold on to the elite assets knowing that they will single-handedly be responsible for winning you weeks on their own. Now, with that being said, if you are in a league with multiple flex spots, or if you're in a league in which you actually need to start 3 wide receivers rather than just start 2, then at that point, the advice maybe would be a little bit different. Then at that point, what you would actually want to do is you would actually want to down tier from one of your elite players, whether that's Bijan or JSN, preferably JSN, to pick up a worse wide receiver 1, but an upgrade in the flex, especially as we prepare for the buys. But again, if you're in a league in which instead you only start 2 wide receivers in 1 flex, in that instance, the depth is not going to be nearly as relevant or nearly as important. So instead, I actually think that you would leave this as is. Obviously, with that pending what's going to happen with Chase Brown tonight, or if Chase Brown looks like he's just straight up not going to be startable anymore after tonight's game, then I'd probably go ahead and we would look to trade for a better running back too, regardless. Billy says, would you drop Lad for Hollywood? For the love of God, do not do that. Now, Elliot Cobb coming through says, league is a non-PPR, but half point per rush and receiving first down. So here's the thing, my friend. Quarterback is going to be everything here if they can run the ball. Not only is quarterback going to be everything, but so will running back. The reason being non-PPR format like this, where you're getting a half a point per rushing first down, naturally, quarterbacks are going to be able to pick up rushing first downs. They're going to be a really high percentage of your starting lineup output weekly, because they're not going to be getting docked with it being a non-PPR format, because they wouldn't have receptions anyway if it was a full PPR league. So non-PPR league, quarterbacks already get a massive bump. But if you're on top of that in a spot in which you're getting half a point per rushing first down, elite running quarterbacks are everything. And obviously running backs are incredibly important as well. So we are 2 girlies, 1 cup. We're going to be 1-3. This is a league in which you start 2 wide receivers in a flex. Quarterback at the moment, we have Kyler and Dart. The thing is, I will never want to play a wide receiver in our flex right now. Like here, Kevontae Turpin, you drop him immediately. Drop Turpin. If you wanted to pick up a depth wide receiver, you'd pick up Josh Downs. In general, I would want to roster as many running backs as we possibly can here, just because that's going to be the optimal flex spot more times than not. Now, looking at what we have at quarterback, we have Kyler, we have Jackson Dart. These names are completely fine. They are going to run the ball. Looking over at what we have with options on the waiver wire, post Malik Neighbors injury, I would for sure drop Jackson Dart, even with his rushing upside, for Brock Purdy. Then looking at what we have at running back, we have Jacobs, DeAndre Swift. Okay, running back 1, RB2 combo. I would love a great RB3 to put in the flex spot where we do currently have RJ Harvey. So for me, the very clear play with this team is there's 2 of them. 1, you're 1-3. We got to sell these injured players to get points in the starting lineup right now. So you can either do one of 2 things. You can try to sell CD Lamb with RJ Harvey to get the best running back you can in return for your flex to make sure that we stay in this. You've already mentioned that your league mates, they're not willing to trade for CD Lamb. For whatever reason, maybe they don't want to pay the price. Maybe it's because it's a non-PPR league. I don't know. But the other thing that you would look at what we have with George Kittle is I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to try to see if we can send Kittle and RJ Harvey to get to a better running back play that way. So you have to sell one of the injured guys, whether that's Lamb and Harvey, whether that's Kittle and Harvey, to go get a better running back. I do like RJ Harvey. Don't get me wrong. I think that he still has a tremendous amount of upside in the long term. But the issue that we're going to have in the short term is going to be the fact that J.K. Dobbins straight up playing over him, and we're 1-3, so we can't afford to just think about long-term upside. Instead, we need to think about how we get points into the starting lineup right now. So I really appreciate you. I hope I was able to help you out. But again, I'm wishing you the best of luck, my friend. I think you do have to sell the injured guys. I think you got to make a play soon. Let's move this over to our next question. It's going to be from Aaron. Says, should we get RJ Harvey here or Jawan? I'd rather have Harvey probably. Debo to Bowers, clear upgrade. Benson to Harvey, clear downgrade. But maybe long-term would be fine. Here's the thing. We're going to have to wait for the Bucky Irving news. Bucky Irving went in for an MRI. If Bucky Irving's going to be fine, then sure, you can make this trade. But if Bucky Irving's going to be missing time, then no, you have to keep Trey Benson because you'll need to have the additional running back starter. Now, Chris Peacock says, hey, brother, first in the league analyzer, and just wondering if this is the right trade. So, Bo Nix to Hurts, clear upgrade. Kincaid to Ferg, clear upgrade. We're paying Hendo and Terry to get it done. Leftover at running back, we'd have HN Gibbs. Leftover at receiver, we'd have JSN, Rome, Egbuka, and JMO. So you can afford this. Don't get me wrong. I will say maybe long-term, it looks a little bit worse than it does short-term. But short-term, you are going to have like Jake Ferg obviously crushing with no Lamb. And short-term, Hendo isn't anything. And on top of that, it's not like Dalton Kincaid is anything either. But, I'm sorry, Terry McLaurin's anything with the injury. Now, let's move this over to our next team. This is going to be from Axe KRD. Says, please help save the team. Any trades I should be making? Should we hold on to Lamb? Thanks in advance. Thank you, my friend. We are CD come home. It's going to be very relevant, our record. We were 1-2 coming into this week, but we have the second most points in the analyzer. I'm assuming we started Caleb, we started Mason, Taylor, Nico, Tet, probably Debo in the flex or Swift in the flex, then Tyler Warren at tight end. So it's shaky. I don't exactly know if we are 1-3. I don't exactly know if we are 2-2. It's going to depend on what our opponent was able to do primarily. Looking at what we have at quarterback, we have Daniels, we have Caleb. We've already been told that Jaden Daniels is going to be coming back this next week. So quarterback, completely fine. I mean, obviously, if we could go through, if you could sell Caleb Williams and Trevion Henderson on a 1-3 roster to get an upgrade in at running back, I would love to do so, but not necessarily something that we have to look at. Now, looking over at what we have at running back, we have Jonathan Taylor and Trevion Henderson. So Taylor, Hendo, love the long-term upside. We have Jordan Mason that we can play in the short term instead of Hendo as we wait for him. But hopefully by the time that Aaron Jones comes back and turns us back into a running back by committee, Trevion Henderson has broken out at that point, has taken over from Ramondre Stevenson. Wide receiver, we have Nico, Tat, Debo in the lineup at the moment. So here's the thing. 1-3 team, if you lost this week, which we don't know yet. If you lost this week and you fall to 1-3, then I would say that you are highly incentivized at that point to sell future value to get upgrades inside the starting lineup right now. However, it's a 10-team, 2 wide receiver, 1 flex league. So your starting lineup is still perfectly fine for the moment. Now, a couple relevant things to discuss. If you were able to make 2-for-1 deals, selling like CeeDee Lamb and Trevion Henderson and going and getting an elite running back right now for us to be able to jam in, it would open up roster spots on your team where there are quality players on the waiver wire that we can look at right now. Like right now, you can go ahead and you can look at Rachaad White with a potential Bucky Irving injury. You can look at Travis Hunter off waivers as well. So in general, 2-for-1 deals will be something that's still very much on the table and very advantageous on a team like this. Selling the long-term pieces for short-term production, if we are currently 1-3, generally a good idea, but you don't have to make any of those moves because your team is strong enough where you can just naturally wait for Lamb to come back. But the worst thing for this team to do, in my opinion, would be you to go ahead and you to send CeeDee Lamb straight up just for a wide receiver like London. It's not really going to accomplish anything. You have players that you can put in the starting lineup right now. Worst thing to do would be you sending Trevion Henderson and going getting Jalen Warren. It's not going to do anything. You have players you can put in the starting lineup right now. So if you are selling those long-term pieces, it's with a clear intention, 2-for-1 deals to get an improvement inside the lineup and backfill with Travis Hunter and Rachaad White off the waiver wire. But realistically speaking, I think this team's probably just fine. I think you're probably just holding on as is. But let me send you over some free questions. And I really appreciate you hanging out with us and really hope that I was able to help you out in some way with this, my friend. Okay. Now, Bitter Hornet, always happy to see you. We got T. Higgins and Elegio Manor trading him for Quentin Johnston. I pray to God that I am wrong, because if I am wrong, I'm going to be standing in my brand new lake house with my brand new boat, because Quentin Johnston's going to win us millions of dollars on Underdog. But for the time being, I have a hard time looking at the large samples that we have beyond like the current few weeks of this season and saying that like Quentin Johnston is undoubtedly a player that we would rather have over T. Higgins. Like, I would still probably rather have Higgins over the big Q. I really hope I'm wrong. I really hope Quentin Johnston crushes him. But we'll see what happens in the game tonight. And depending on the game tonight, we very easily could change our mind. Now, next question's come out from Chase. Kenneth Walker Lamb for Judkins and JSN. Personal preference, if you have a losing record, take JSN. If you have a winning record, take Lamb. Now, C. Peterson with our next one. Says, who do you think has the highest ceiling? We are down bad. Highest ceiling for this week. Jalen Waddle's been getting 5 to 6 targets. T. Higgins been... Highest ceiling for this week is Chase Brown, who's so far this season had 15 opportunities last week, 19 the week before, 24 the week before that. So he's averaging 20 opportunities a game. He puts it together somehow, some way. So maybe Chase Brown, but all these players incredibly low floors and not super inspiring ceilings. But it does look like we just hit 400 likes on this stream. So let's go ahead and let's send out some free questions. Again, all you got to do to get free questions we're sending out every single day on this live stream is drop a like on this stream, be subscribed to the channel, and then drop your flockfantasy.com username in the chat. Also, you could get guaranteed free questions. You don't even have to win them if you take advantage of the newest offer they have on Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy has been the only sponsor of this channel for 5 years now, and we're going to keep it that way. Love working with them. They've just dropped the best new promo that they've ever had. This is new customers that play $5 get $100 added into their accounts. This is with code FLOCK, and if you use code FLOCK, you get guaranteed free questions for these live streams, which we're doing every single night on the stream as well. And lastly, you'll get a free Bo Nix pick, higher or lower, half a total yard for the game tonight. The link's in the description. The link's in the live chats. And again, Underdog Fantasy is available in almost every state. But let me go ahead and send out some free questions. This first one's going to be coming out from Fat Send. Just found you on the site. Just sent you over a free start sit question. Really appreciate you hanging out with us. And let's send this other one over to Maximus. And we'll send you over a free trade question, my friend, because I keep on forgetting that. Kind of want to be answering trade questions early in the week and start set questions later in the week. Now let's move this to our next one. This is NC Spicy Wiener trading RJ Harvey, Jahmyr Gibbs for Judkins and James Cook. Massive upgrade from Harvey to Judkins, downgrade from Gibbs to Cook. Looks like we lost Neighbors and it's a deep league. If this really is a start 9 format, I'm okay with you down tiering. Now, NC Spicy Wiener gives us a different option where we could down tier from Bowers to Sutton, move from Olave to Big Q. I think Bowers is going to be the best player in this deal. I'd rather have Bowers than Olave. Okay, so Nimler says, let me answer this. Puma says, wait, how do I get the guaranteed free questions? I use code FLOCK on Underdog. If you signed up over the past few days with code FLOCK on Underdog, all you have to do is make sure that you have an account on flockfantasy.com with the same email address. We started this offer about 3 days ago. Obviously, we had a different offer earlier. Like the offer in the off season was sign up to Underdog with code FLOCK, then get our free draft guide. We started this offer for the free questions in the live streams, I want to say 3 days ago. So every morning, Underdog sends me the list of the email addresses that signed up with with code FLOCK to Underdog Fantasy and made at least a $10 deposit. I send that list of email addresses to the devs on flockfantasy.com. If there's an email address on flockfantasy.com that matches, they go ahead and they award it with free start sit and trade question vouchers. So just make sure you have an account set up on flockfantasy.com with the same email address that you signed up to Underdog Fantasy with. Okay. And with that as well, I mean, all the explanations is in the description of the live stream too. Now, Nimler says, yo, Mason, any suggestions on how to make this team better? So we are number 1 in the league in terms of value. We are also 3-0 coming into this past week. It's a 2-quarterback format. We have Allen, we have Kyler. There are a few things that I would want to do with the waiver wire pivots right now. I would want to roster a third quarterback here in the Superflex context. Obviously, it's an 8-team Superflex league, so it's not like a third QB is going to be impossible to get. Realistically, I would actually advise you picking up Michael Penix over Jackson Dart. That's going to be something that we need to update with our rankings, which I'll do right now, which obviously Dart gave you the rushing upside, which is why I was very optimistic with him in our rankings coming into the week. But now after the Malik Neighbors injury, it doesn't matter that he gives you the rushing upside. I think he is a much shakier play than he otherwise would have been. So we'll move Dart back down. But anyway, I'd pick up Michael Penix. I would drop Tyrone Tracy. Going over and looking at running backs, I would drop Zach Charbonnet for RJ Harvey to see what happens with RJ Harvey tonight. You could also drop Zach Charbonnet for Rachaad White, dependent on the health of Bucky Irving. Going over to wide receiver, dependent on what Jalen Waddle does tonight. Potentially you look to pivot from Waddle and instead you go over and get Jordan Addison. Going over to tight ends, you could drop David Njoku. And honestly, I would probably drop, here's what I'm doing. Drop Charbonnet, drop Tracy, drop Njoku, pick up RJ Harvey, Rachaad White, and then pick up Michael Penix with this being a super flex league. Then it's a league in which you can start 10 players. So we're starting Allen, Kyler, Tyler Warren. So we have 7 combined running backs and receivers. We have CMC, Achane, Walker, Scat, Nico, Wilson, Igbuka, and then we have depth, but not too much depth. So I love your team. Realistically, the only thing that I want to do with this team, I don't want to do any trades. You're number 1 in I don't know. You're number 1 in the league analyzer. You're number 1 in this league in points scored. Obviously, you're doing something right. I don't think you want to make any trades. I think you just make those like 3 or 4 waiver wire pivots. But I really appreciate you and really hope I was able to help you out. And I will say, like, you don't need to drop Sharp for Rashad White if we get Bucky Irving news before waiver wires clear, and it sounds like Bucky Irving's going to be fine. But I think Rashad White should be rostered in all leagues at this point with the Bucky concerns. Now let's move this over to our next question. This one's going to be a trade question from Pure. It says, 6-team league, should I do this or hold with the Rice return? 6-team league, yes. Of course. Go get Bijan Robinson. Relax says, feels like too much value considering my depth. We are selling JCM, Travis Hunter, Nico Collins for Benson, Judkins, Brian Thomas. And yeah, this was Hunter to Brian Thomas, upgrade. JCM to Benson, upgrade. Nico to, like, what's our starting lineup now and what would be our starting lineup after? We're starting Puka, Nico, now wide receiver. Running back, we're starting Hampton and I guess Pollard. So I'm completely fine if you wanted to make this deal and if you wanted to go and get the Benson side. Shallow format. So in general, I kind of want to keep the best player, which is Nico Collins here, but I don't know. I mean, obviously the big Q has been just making Nico Collins look like a bum. Now let's move this over to our next one. This is going to be from Trevor BA. Says, was number 1 in the league analyzer despite being 1 and 2 at the time. Lost neighbors and dropped. Rest in peace. As a Giants fan, I am dead inside. Completely understand here, my friend. Traded Igbuka for Nico straight up as an Ohio State fan. To an Ohio State fan, which is a step in the right direction. Appreciate any advice. Also, congrats on the engagement. Thank you so much, my guy, and really appreciate you. Let me send you over some free questions. I know you're always out with us in the chat. So I'm just worried because if we lost neighbors, we're probably 1 and 3 now. No. Yeah, man. Our starting lineup this past week would have been neighbors. Metcalf, Igbuka. I guess maybe you would have started. You could have started one of the running backs over Metcalf. Hopefully not. We had Dart at quarterback, which is fine. We had Tyler Ward at tight end, which is fine. It's a 2 wide receiver, 1 flex league. So that's your saving grace. The saving grace here is the depth's not going to matter much. So losing Malik Neighbors, we should have pieces just to fill in. So like our starting lineup this next week, we have Daniels in at quarterback. Running back, we have Achane. We have Walker. Wide receiver, we have Igbuka. No wide receiver 2 till Rice comes back. Metcalf on bye. We have Judkins in the flex. So here's what you got to do with this team. It's very clear in my opinion. Of course, I could be wrong very easily. I'm wrong all the time. If losing neighbors dropped us to be 1 and 3, you need to go ahead and you need to actually find a way to get points in your starting lineup now. So you have to sell Rashee Rice. You have to sell Rice for a startable receiver. Go pivot off of him, somebody like Garrett Wilson. Looking at what we have at quarterback, I would drop Dart. I'd pick up Dak Prescott post Neighbors injury, even if Dart has a ton of rushing upside. Running back, not making any pivots. Wide receivers, like obviously we're going to open up a roster spot. I think I would consider cutting Jonnu for, I don't know. Honestly, you don't need Jonnu. You have Tyler Warren. And the thing with Jonnu specifically is if Darnell Washington's going to be getting this run, like, and Jonnu's very clearly in a tight end by committee in one of the league's worst offenses, where at the same time you now have them going into the bye week. I would cut Jonnu. I would cut Neighbors. I would probably I would cut Dart. I'd pick up Dak, Tracy, and Jaden Higgins. And then from that point, I think you may want to sell Rashee Rice to get a viable wide receiver 2 in your starting lineup. But let me see if there's anything else. I don't think there's anything else to do with this. Obviously, the Neighbors injury limits our upside. If you're 2-2, you hold on to Rashee Rice and we just throw in a crap wide receiver into the starting lineup this week and we set up a prayer that we can wait till Rice comes back, then obviously we're in a great spot. Like, I really don't want to sell Rashee Rice at a loss, at a low point, because I think Rice is going to be phenomenal. But yeah, I'm just going to go ahead, sell Rice if you're 1-3, 2-2. You just make the waiver wire moves. You make the waiver wire moves regardless. But we sent you over some free questions just in case there's anything else that you want to follow up with. I'd be super happy to take a look at it for you, my friend. Now let's move this over to Snipes. Let me see how many questions I have on the site right now. We may need to turn off the ability to buy them. We've actually had on the ability to buy them much longer than usual. Let me just make sure I'm not too far behind. No, we're not that bad. Here's what we're going to do. We will answer the quick questions, and then we'll get back to the team reviews. But Snipes is trading Baker, JCM for Jordan Mason and JSN. Yeah, this is Jordan Mason and JSN easily, even if it was a Superflex league. And let me get rid of the roster reviews real quick in this so we can go through the quick questions. So this is from Ira Jan says, I'm 0-3, could be 0-4. Should we do this? If so, what are moves? Oh, 100% you make this trade. I'm sorry, but like selling Lamb for London and Higgins, you're probably making it you're selling this at a loss, right? But the fact of the matter is, if you're 0-3 or potentially 0-4, then to be honest, the long-term value of your trade doesn't matter. Because if CeeDee Lamb misses another 2 weeks and we fall to 0-6, I'm sorry to say this to anybody watching, but you fall to 0-4, you're still in it. Like, don't get me wrong, you need to start winning games ASAP. But you fall to 0-6, unless a ton of teams make the playoffs in your league, rest in peace, you're done. So if that's your record and you have CeeDee Lamb, you just simply need to pivot over. You need to get some players that we can start right now. That way we don't fall to 0-6. Now, M3 says, what's a blockbuster trade that we need to make? 2 wide receiver, 1 flex format. I don't see a trade that you need to make. I mean, you could afford to upgrade at a onesie if you wanted to sell a running back like Kyron. GT says, need help who to drop on my bench for waivers. I'm sorry, my friend. I'm going to send you over a free start set question. Super messages, I can't see your team. Super messages, again, are just supposed to be super quick. You can just ask like a quick question. Would you rather have London or Lamb? But yeah, I can't really help you much here, my friend. I sent you over that free question in case you wanted to follow up with something else. Dana trading Kyler Henry, JCM, Christian Kirk for Daniels, Walker, Godwin. Downgrading at running back, upgrading at quarterback and receiver. So here's the thing. You know I'm not a big Derrick Henry guy. This is our third straight season for calling for the downfall of Derrick Henry. Last year, I came through and I said, yep, RIP, he's done after the beginning of the season. And what ended up happening? He ended up being an elite RB1 the rest of the way. So, I probably go with the upside here, but I don't know, Chief. I mean, Derrick Henry's made me look like a clown before, and I'm not going to be surprised at all if he makes me look like a clown again. Now, just the two of us trading Kyron and Metcalf for Rice and Lamb. I would 100% do this deal. 100%. Unless you're 0-4. Now, Samsington trading Jordan Mason and Tet for Nico Collins. Leftover running back, we'd have Hampton, Genty, and Woody Marks. So, yeah, I think you can afford this. I think you can go get Nico. Now, Titan says, I'd send either Ladd or Mike Evans. I'd rather trade Ladd. And, yeah, I'd make this deal. 10-team, 2 wide receiver, 1 flex. We have Josh Allen. Go get Avonte Adams. Now, A. Kennedy is trading Marv, Addison, Kelsey for Judkins, Hollywood, Kraft. Marv to Judkins. Give me Judkins. Addison, who cares? Kelsey to Kraft. Kraft by a mile. So, yeah, we'll make this deal. Now, Colin Beal for the flex. I'm assuming this is for week 5. All else being equal, I'll still start Ladd over Jordan Addison and Matthew Golden. I'd be surprised if you have Terry McLaurin playing. And obviously, you'll have no Rashee Rice. But it looks like we just hit 500 likes on the stream, so let's go ahead and let's send out some more free questions. Or actually, no, never mind. We haven't yet. So once we hit 500 likes, let me know, and then we'll send out some more free questions to people in the chat. Now, B. Holt trading Pollard, Marv, Ricky Pearsall, Hawk for Lamar, Golden, Kittle. Lots going to hinge on the Lamar health. We're streaming quarterback right now. Don't have much depth at wide receiver. If Lamar is good to go, then yes, we would make this trade. 100%. But it does look like we just hit 500 likes on the stream. So let's go ahead and let's actually send out those free questions. Again, all you got to do to get free questions will be drop a like on the stream and drop your flogfantasy.com username in the chat. So if you win them, I know who to send them to. Now, MacB 0-11. Quarterback this next week. I don't know the matchup. I'm not going to be able to answer Bo Nix first. Oh, are you talking about tonight? Tonight, give me Bo Nix. Much better matchup. And then wide receiver, give me Garrett Wilson over Jalen Waddle. Creamy Baby says, Mason, I feel like my sell high window is tight. Like, yeah, on this team, I wouldn't mind at all selling high on Xavier Worthy. Rashee Rice going to come back in a few weeks. Xavier Worthy is going to be an injury risk for you. Don't get me wrong. I do like my guy Worthy, but like Bush in the Flock League was also going through and trying to sell me Xavier Worthy. I mean, he's been trying to sell me Xavier Worthy for the past month. And I'm not really wanting to buy for the reasons I'm sure are the same that you're wanting to sell. So yeah, in general, I would agree with this. Like I would try to go through and sell them if you can. But let me send out some free questions to people in the chat. Let's send this one out to Leonardo in. Thank you for hanging out with us in the stream. Let me see if I can find you on the site. Leonardo. God, there are a lot of Leonardos. Leonardo in, just found you and just sent you over a free trade question. Really appreciate you hanging out with us in this live stream, my friend. Now let's send this over to Uncle C. Just found you and just sent you over that free trade question. Really appreciate you hanging out with us in the stream. Let's move back over and start answering some of these. Bitter Hornet, trading Chase Brown, J-Mo versus Derrick Henry. I would take Derrick Henry in this deal. Especially, I know you've been trying to upgrade running back. Chase Brown, Scat, J-Mo for Henry. Leftover running back, you'd have Derrick Henry, Bijan, Woody Marks. I guess you have enough depth. This deal's shakier because it's a full PPR format. So honestly, this deal would kind of come down to what happens with Chase Brown tonight. I do the first one for sure. Unruly Cal trading Scat and Olave for Garrett Wilson. Dynasty League. Plenty of running back production for us. I'm fine if you wanted to make this deal in Dynasty. Like realistically, like Scat obviously is a rookie, but I don't know if he's like somebody that's a cornerstone asset to build around a dynasty. Like Scat could be replaced next year. It's not like he has a ton of investment into him. Okay. Now, I Little Ducky says was offered this 4-0 with Kittle and Rice back soon. I think you can get more value for London and Kraft. If it wasn't for the Joe Alt injury, then yes. But the thing is, like, the Chargers now have a bottom 5 offensive line in the league. So like Amari and Hampton, I am more concerned about him, honestly, than I was a week ago. Now, let's move this over. And y'all know, I mean, I've been on the Amari and Hampton train. We've been saying he's going to be just fine, but the offensive line injuries in Los Angeles now are really starting to stack up. And I do think it's something that you got to consider. Okay. Now, Bitter Hornet trading Marks, Bichelle Tootin, T. Higgins, Ricky Pearsall for Derrick Henry. Leftover, we'd have CMC, Henry, no depth beyond. Wide receiver, we'd have Puka, Sutton, no depth beyond. Value-wise, it's Henry, but only if you feel comfortable that you can clear out your league mates on waivers. If the waiver wire is garbage in your league, it may be tough. Now, GDS trading Penix and Judkins for Ward and Rice. This is really a one quarterback format. The quarterbacks don't matter at all. I'd rather have Rice over Judkins. If this is a super flex league, though, you go with the Michael Penix side. One quarterback format, QBs don't matter, though. Cosby says, would you make this trade? 100% yes. Go get Jamar Chase here. Easily. And I have Travis Etienne on my own team. Now, Haddaddy trading Gibbs, London for Bijan and Rome. You can see I have Gibbs and Bijan ranked back-to-back. I have London and Rome ranked back-to-back. So this is the perfect example of a trade that is just going to come down to your personal preference. Now, Gerard says, what are your thoughts in any way I can improve the team via trade? Josh Allen and Mari Hampton versus James Cook. Give me Allen and Hampton. Laporta versus Tyler Warren. Give me Tyler Warren. Right now we have Jacobs. Here's the thing. You have Jacobs, Gibbs, Bucky. Why the hell are we going to be, and Amari and Hampton? Why are we going to be trading a running back for a better RB and downgrading at QB? Here's what you do with this team. With your team how loaded you are at running back, you keep Josh Allen here. And assuming that Bucky Irving's okay, then you can trade a running back and a wide receiver to go get an elite wide receiver. Mousy says, now 3-1, but Neighbors is out. What can I do now? I'm sorry. You sent in a super message, not a team review, so I can't see your team. I'll send you over a free trade question if you have any trades that come across your mind that you want me to look at. Okay. Now, Jared coming through with our next trade says, I'm 2-2, just lost Neighbors. Any suggestions? You have enough wide receiver depth that I think you got to ride it out. I don't think you can go through, and I don't think you can try to up tier to a better wide receiver one because it's a start 8 format. J-Rod says, I lost Rome, get Cook. Am I losing too much depth? Start 8 format. Leftover, we'd have James Cook, Bucky, Benson at running back. We have Rashad White in case Bucky misses. Wide receiver leftover, you'd have Chase, Olave, Worthy, Godwin. You can make this deal. I'd be more excited about it if Bucky Irving's going to be healthy and Bucky Irving's not going to miss. But not a super easy call either way. Okay, now our next question from C. Mako, trading Jennings and Evans versus Kenneth Walker. Right now at running back, we're starting Brees and Hampton. Wide receiver, we're starting Lamb. And we don't have Lamb. We have Igbuka, and here's the thing. Why the hell no, I know we're dealing with the injuries and we need additional depth. I feel like you should be trading these wide receivers for a wide receiver, to be honest with you. Because wide receiver is the weakest part of your team with all the injuries that you have. Now let's move this over to our next one. Okay. Let's refresh. This is Magic Messi trading Judkins and Igbuka for Jefferson. Running back. Oh, yeah, you can afford to make this deal. You make this trade. Maybe it looks like you lose in the short term, but long term, once eventually Godwin and Evans are good to go. At that point, I think Jefferson's going to be a completely different tier. And you have a ton of running back production. Now, drink a beer trading. I'm so sorry. I probably mispronounced it. But trading Chase Brown Tet for Devon Achane. Don't care about Ollie Gordon getting the handcuff here. Leftover at receiver, we'd have Nico Adams and then Jerry Jeudy wide receiver 3. So this would be a better play for our flex. If you are completely out on Chase Brown, it's not a bad cost. I wish we could wait to see what these players look like in the game tonight before you had to make this call. But if you have to make this trade before tonight or it potentially goes away, I completely understand just going through with it. Okay. Now, Grady Ware with the start set. In the flex this next week, you're probably going to go Genty. So what we would have told you last week, and I think you just run back with the classics. Now, Gandalf says, do I pivot from Malik or do I hold if the team's still good? It's a dynasty. Here's the thing. If you're a contender, I completely understand selling Malik Neighbors in dynasty. But there is no world in which that trade can be Malik Neighbors for Brees, Evans, and Hawk. You would look back this offseason and hate yourself to the furthest extreme. So again, contending teams, completely reasonable to sell Malik Neighbors in dynasty. You would just need to charge a hell of a lot more than this. Okay. Now, O'Donnell with our next one, trading Judkins Worthy for Walker Nico. I think, yeah, you upgraded 2 spots. Let's do it. Jet trading Hampton for Jacobs. If it wasn't for the Joe Alt injury, I think this would be very difficult. But with all the injuries we are now dealing with in Los Angeles, I would rather have Josh Jacobs over Amari and Hampton. The offensive line's just been decimated. Now, Cryptic Gav trading Daniels and Metcalf for Chase Brown and George Pickens. Leftover quarterback, you'd have Bo. Running back, we have no RB3. We lost. Okay, so here's the thing. You just lost Neighbors. I don't love this price point, but yeah, you probably have to do it. You probably have to make it. Now, LG Chavarin trading Hubbard, Scat, Pearsall for Pollard and JSN. Sky to Pollard downgrade. Hubbard and Pearsall to JSN. Give me JSN. Super shallow format. Give me JSN. Deeper league, like the one that it is listed out here. That's a 12-team start 8 format. If it is a deeper league like that, I would probably opt to take the combination of Chuba Hubbard, Cam Scat, and Ricky Pearsall. Okay. Next question from Mr. Toro. Trading Scat and JSN for Amon-Ra St. Brown. HN, Warren, leftover running back, wide receiver, Myers. No, you can't do this. You're too injured. I agree that St. Brown's in a different tier than JSN. And in your format, I would say that St. Brown's probably the play for a lot of people. But you specifically are way too injured to make this. Okay. Now, Big Woolies here for the flex. I think you go Pollard. We'll see what Harvey does tonight, but Hindo doesn't have a workload. Matthew Golden doesn't. Keon Coleman doesn't. Like, none of these options are exciting. But if you needed a third flex here, I think it would be Tony Pollard. If you absolutely needed one. Now, Jay Beach with our next one. This is Barkley, London versus CMC and Tet. Here's what I'm going to do real quick, just to make sure that we can answer all these questions before kickoff. I'm going to turn off the ability to buy questions. If you have free question vouchers, you should be able to get them in. But to actual buy the questions, we're going to have that turned off. And we'll still be giving out free questions to people in the chat. Jay Beach trading Barkley, London for CMC and Tet. I would love to say I drafted Barkley in London. Obviously, I traded away London, but I would love to say it's the Barkley side of this. But CMC and Barkley are in two completely different tiers at this point. Like, I would rather have McCaffrey here. I think Tet's closer to London than Barkley is to CMC at the moment. I don't think Barkley's had a game with 20 fantasy points yet, has he? He hasn't, which I think they're on the horizon, which I feel very fortunate to be somebody who's 4-0 with Saquon Barkley. But VPN trading Worthy and McBride for Nico. You have Kyle Pitts at tight end. I probably wouldn't do this in a 2 wide receiver 1 flex league. I'd probably keep McBride. Sergio with our next question, if this will load. Here we go. Trading Daniels and Garrett Wilson for Lamar. Leftover at wide receiver, we'd have London, Sutton. Here's the thing. You can't do this. Not now. You have Lamb injured. You have Neighbors injured. You have Rashee Rice suspended. So you have a lot of names at wide receiver on your team, but you're going to have to wait a couple weeks if you want to make that trade. Like Garrett Wilson, somebody you actually need right now. Now, Nick Sava says, a lost Malik to the ACL tear, need to do something. JSN to Rome down tier, but you get the additional depth pieces at the other positions. We need the depth at running back and kind of need the depth at receiver as well in a double flex format. So this is a completely fine spot to down tier from JSN with. Okay. Now, Sergio with our next one. For the flex between Sutton and Garrett Wilson, I'm going to be going with Sutton tonight. Just love the matchup that you have against Cincy. The Land trading Henry and Bowers for Jonathan Taylor and Jawan Jennings. It's crazy to say, but assuming you have another viable tight end, which I don't think you'd be trying to sell Bowers if you didn't. Yeah, I think you can go ahead. I think you can take the Jonathan Taylor side of this, where Taylor looks to be in a completely different tier than Derrick Henry. And of course, I've been the guy to call for the end of Derrick Henry for 3 seasons now. And last year, he absolutely dropped the hammer on us. So I don't want to do it again, but realistically, it's just tough. Now, Ergavan says, traded Nico for Hampton and lost Neighbors. We need help. Oh, dear God. This is gross. Wide receiver. Here's the thing. The McBride side is the winner, in my opinion. I would rather McBride over Addison and Marv. But wide receiver depth matters in your league, and you clearly have none of it. You clearly need help at the wide receiver position. So I think you're losing this trade, but if this is the best you're going to get, you may need to make a trade and be willing to lose it. So I would hold out a little bit longer, hope that we can get something a little bit better than this. But yeah, for now, I want McBride. But it does look like we just hit 600 likes on the stream. So let's send out some free questions in the chat. If you haven't already, to get those free questions, all you got to do is drop a like on this live stream and drop your flockfantasy.com username in the chat, and we'll pick out a couple of y'all to send free questions to. Of course, if y'all wanted to get free questions guaranteed, you can always do that by taking advantage of the offer that we have with Underdog Fantasy. We've been with Underdog Fantasy for 5 years now. They've been the only sponsor of this channel. We're going to keep it that way as well. And Underdog Fantasy just dropped their biggest promo ever, where after you play your first $5, you can get $100 added to your account. And on top of that, with code FLOCK, you'll get free questions to ask in the live streams that we're doing every single night. And on top of that, with code FLOCK, you'll be getting that free Bo Nix pick, more than less than half a total yard for the game tonight. The link's in the description, the link's in the live chat as well. But let me send out those free questions real quick to people in the chat. Let's send this first one over to Matt Sells. Matt Sells just found you and just sent you over a free trade question. Really appreciate you hanging out with us in this stream. And let's send this other one to the Magic Skull Bus. Just found you and just sent you over a free trade question as well. Really appreciate you hanging out with us in the stream. And now let's move this over to our next one. This is going to be from Robinson. So should I try to send Egbuka instead of Thomas? He already agreed to Barkley for Gibbs verbally. I would way rather have the Gibbs and JSN side of this. And I leave this deal as is. I have Egbuka ranked over Brian Thomas in our rest of season ranks. So no, if you can send Barkley and Brian Thomas for Jahmyr Gibbs and JSN, in my opinion, it's kind of a no-brainer. So, yes, I think we take Gibbs and JSN here. Now, Pock says, or we could try to trade a running back for Kittle 1-for-1. Tet to Nico upgrade, Mason and Pearsall. I mean, if you have the running back depth here, which we do, if you're a winning team, I'm completely fine with you going through and with you taking the Nico Collins and George Kittle side of this. Now, Rare Hunter with our next one. This is going to be Devon Achane and Addison versus Hubbard and A.J. Brown. In my opinion, it's the Addison side. I'm sorry, it's the Achane side easily, regardless of Addison. DK says, I'm up 18. Thing is, I'm kind of guessing on who we started earlier, right? I wish you would have put that in. We have London, Rome. I'm assuming we started. Tight ends, we have, I have no idea who we started here. It doesn't really matter. So essentially, it looks like the questions that you could be asking is, how do we rank DJ Moore versus Jalen Waddle, right? Those are the only players playing tonight. Somebody correct me in the chat if I'm wrong. I would play Waddle over DJ Moore if that's what you're asking. But obviously, I'm assuming we like. It's just Waddle versus DJ Moore. Give me Waddle. Okay. Aaron trading AJ Brown, Egbuka, and Kraft for Amon-Ra St. Brown. 10 team start 8 format. We'd have Tyler Warren, and then wide receiver, we have St. Brown, Rome, Tet, Adams. So here's the thing. You're definitely paying a ton. Don't get me wrong. You're definitely overpaying. I think the trade calc may say you lose this one, but more already played. So it's Waddle versus, I guess the only option that people play tonight is Waddle. So then never mind. Yeah, I just have no idea how to answer that in that case. But yeah, you're overpaying, but it's a 10-team league. You have a loaded roster, so we can afford to overpay for the elite stud, especially when we have Tyler Warren. Drizzo says, any moves I should make to better my team? You didn't send in a team review, my friend. You sent in a super message. So I'm sorry, I can't really help you out here. I'll send you over a free trade question just in case there's anything else that you want me to take a look at. Patel, sir, trading Benson JSN for a future first and Ashton Genty. Dynasty League, I think this is going to come down to your personal preference. If you're a rebuilding team, I would rather have the future first over Benson. If you're a contender, I understand wanting the Benson side of that. And then JSN or Ashton Genty. For me, I would still prefer Ashton Genty in Dynasty, but I wouldn't fault anybody for wanting the stud wide receiver with how damn good JSN's look so far this season. So I probably go with the first rounder and Genty, but it is going to be up to you. Slum says, sold Jefferson for Neighbors. What do? Do we trade Josh? I'm sorry, my friend. You sent in a super message. I cannot see your team with the super message. I will send you over a free trade question voucher just in case there's anything else that you want me to take a look at if you have a specific trade. Let's move this over to our next one. Let's see. Come on. Refresh your website. You're going to make me sign in and sign out? Is that what we're doing here? These are the games we're playing? Let's see. These are the games we're playing, huh? We got kickoff in an hour and a half. You're over here yanking my chain. Okay. Okay, we're still going to hammer in the quick questions. We're not going to be doing the team reviews for a little bit, at least before we get through all the quick questions, because I got to make sure that we can answer those before the game kicks off. But our next question is going to be from Rai. Give me 1 second, though, because we've been live for about 2 hours, and I got to pee. All right, I am sorry about that. 2-2, need a wide receiver badly. Also may trade Rice for Hall. I have no idea how. If you need a wide receiver, you were trading Rice for Hall, then trading Hall for AJ Brown. Is that what you're saying? Real quick, Ben says I'm not able to select you as creator on the site. How to send in a trade question? I am sorry, my friend. We are too backed up on questions right now, so we only have them turned on for the free questions. Or if you have a voucher, you can send one in, but you cannot purchase a question for me on the site at the moment. Once we catch up on all our questions, then we will go ahead and turn them back on, which looks like we're not too far behind. But in terms of my rankings, AJ Brown, Brees, we have them ranked very comparably. Wide receiver, yeah, it doesn't look great. Running back, we have Etienne, Walker, Judkins, Achane. Yeah, so I mean, I would trade Brees for AJ Brown in this context. I don't understand what you mean by trading Rice for Brees Hall, though. Okay. Now, Jay Weeble trading Genty for a future first, Tet, and Hubbard. Yeah, I think if you wanted to trade Genty for Tet and a future first in a Dynasty League, you can do it. Now, Fantasy Genius trading Woody Marks for Olave. I would rather have Olave still, even if it does look like Woody Marks taking over as the starting running back in Houston. Birdman says, will this be okay with the Lamb injury in the bye weeks? I would assume yes. We have Hampton, Pollard. We can start in the short term. Wide receiver. I'm sorry. We have We'd have Hampton Barkley at running back. Wide receiver, we'd have London Godwin. And then we'd have Pollard in the flex. If you're a winning team, you make this deal for sure. And then obviously it's going to be a little bit painful for what we have in the short term, but long term, you will be absolutely crushing. Now let's move this over to our next one. It's going to be from Jay Stark. Trading Lamar, TJ Hawkinson for 2 future first in a 1 quarterback dynasty league. Or Lamar Godwin for Daniels in a few. I would way rather trade Lamar and Godwin for Daniels in a future first. This trade that you have listed out is much better than Lamar and Hawk for the other side. Okay. Now, Big Shaq trading A.J. Brown for Rashee Rice. I have Rice ranked 1 spot higher. If you are a winning team, give me Rice. If you are a losing team, give me A.J. Brown because you'll need points in your starting lineup now. But that is going to be the determining factor for this trade. Now, Brown Diagram says, I lost neighbors. Should I trade for anyone else? And my guy, you'd be losing this deal too much. Wide receiver, we have A.J. Brown, George Pickens. So no wide receiver 3, essentially. Yeah, you're trading for somebody for the flex. I'm fine with you making a deal like this, but I mean, I'm not even a dare. You know, there's no player that I'm rooting on more for than Quentin Johnson this year. There's probably no player I'm rooting on less for than Derrick Henry. But realistically, I'd still rather have Henry in that instance. Ha Daddy trading HN Mar for Kamara and Jettis. HN Jettis, tomato, give me Kamara over Mar. So I'm fine with you making this. I don't think it's a clear win. I think it is going to be a little bit personal preference here. Now, Squid Bell with our next one. Zay Mason, I'm 3-0, trying to make a change off the double stack of Bijan London and Wilson Hall. Okay. Bijan London, Wilson Hall. So here the thing is, even on a team where we're 3-0, it is a league in which there are only 10 teams. You start 2 receivers in a flex. So realistically, Matthew Golden doesn't matter here. And if Matthew Golden doesn't matter here, then you're trading Brees in London for Barkley. But let's see. After this, we'd have Nico Wilson at wide receiver, Keenan for a flex. We'd have actually Swift for a flex. Well, we had a Barkley Bijan. So because depth doesn't matter much in this format, I would make this deal, but it's not a super easy spot. Now let's move this over to our next one. This is going to be from R. Ferg. Says 12-team dynasty at PPR app point tight and premium. Probably the 201. 201 versus Jake Ferg is going to be super simple. The 201 will be worth more in the offseason. Jake Ferg's worth more now. I think it's a fair trade. If you're a contender and need a tight end, it's a completely fine price to pay. Obviously, Ferg's going to be a little bit worse in the long term because CeeDee Lamb's not going to be injured forever. Okay. Now let's move over to our next one. This is Simplistic Character. It says, 2-2, thumbs up or thumbs down. We have Booty in the flex in a 14-team format. 14-team league. In that instance, we'd go ahead and yes, we would make this deal because obviously the depth's going to matter much more in that instance. And Quentin Johnson would be a significant upgrade over Kayshon Boutte. So yes, I would do this. Okay. Moving over to Bryce, has got offered AJ for Lamb. I countered AJ for Brian Thomas Jr. And then he sent this. Texted him. He's not joking. Wanted to do it, but I have no running backs and not sure what we can get out of AJ. So here's the thing, man. AJ Brown is such the easy play over Woody Marks that if this were to happen in my league, I would get so mad, I would be screaming for a veto. So it doesn't matter if Woody Marks is literally the only running back on your team. And you would need to go through and you would need to just play running backs off the waiver wire. If you can trade Woody Marks, oh my God, your running back room's horrible. Actually, no, we have Brees. Thank God. I just saw the first, saw the first few guys. You make this trade for sure. 100%, my guy. You have to. And hope that your league mates don't lose their minds. Shelton says, what wide receivers can we buy with Brees or Benson? Love it. Much love, my friend. Let me go ahead and pull this up on the site. Let's see where the expert rankings have these players. Expert rankings. Let's look at running back, wide receiver. Not letting me select both these at the same time, which is an issue. But anyway, I guess we can just look at overall. Let's go ahead. We're going to look at Trey Benson and Breece Hall. The wide receivers that are directly ahead of Breece in the rest of season rankings that you'd be trying to trade him for would be Pickens, Sutton, Flowers, Tyreek, Brian Thomas. The players that are right ahead of Benson. Where's Benson in these ranks? Benson's not this low. Is he higher? Benson's RB20. So the players right ahead of Benson are Quentin Johnston, Marvin Harrison, and then those same receivers, Pickens, Sutton, Flowers, Tyreek, Brian Thomas. Okay. Let's move this over to our next one. This is going to be from Celerus. Says, happy BR double flex. We have Breece Adams versus Saquon Barkley. Give me Barkley here easily in a 10-team league. But realistically, I understand the hesitation given the fact that Barkley is yet to score 20 fantasy points in any game here. Toto Sojo has Javonte and Rome versus Jonathan Taylor. 10-team, 2 wide receiver, 1 flex, where we have enough wide receiver production, assuming all those guys are healthy. So yes, I'd be fine going out there and making that deal to get the elite tight end with Jonathan Taylor. Okay. Now let's move this over to our next one. This is going to be from Priscival, something along those lines. Trading Dobbins, Metcalf for Genty, Igbuka, and Tet. So here's the thing. You upgrade from Dobbins to Genty, and that's massive. And then you upgrade from Metcalf to Igbuka, and that's massive. And then they pay you Tet McMillan for your troubles. So I have no idea why this trade would ever go down, but it's Ashton Genty by a mile. Now, Jay Show with our next one says 3-1, 14-team league, no tight end. Made a deal yesterday during the game, so it won't process till tomorrow. Is it still worth it? So 14-team league, depth's going to matter a little bit more, of course. Now, with that being said, it is ultimately going to come down to the health of Bucky Irving. He's getting the MRI today. Hopefully we get some news relatively soon. If he's healthy, it's very clearly we want Bucky Irving here. However, of course, frankly, we don't know if Bucky Irving is going to be good to go or not. So I'll say Bucky, but I'm not sure until we get the actual report with MRI. Like I have just as much information as you do with that. Okay. Now, let's move this over to our next one. This is Psychology trading Genty and McBride for Jahmyr Gibbs. For me, I think I need to hold on to Jahmyr Gibbs here. I'm sorry, I need to hold on to Ashton Genty and Trey McBride. I don't know how we could say that like this is an okay deal, just knowing exactly how strong of an option Trey McBride is at tight ends. And he is the true tight end one in fantasy football. Volume, talent, it is everything that you'd want to see there. So, yeah, give me Genty and McBride. GX is looking to make some moves worth 3-0. If you're 3-0, I think that you can probably afford to go out there and try to make a play for Rice. Like selling Amar for Rice, obviously, would be great. Now, the Matrix says, was thinking about this trade. What do you think? We have Baker, Javonte, JSN versus Daniels and Gibbs. Baker to Daniels, massive upgrade. Javonte and JSN for Gibbs. I love it. So looking at wide receiver, we don't have a great wide receiver 3, but we have 2 top guys that we can start every single week. Depth's not going to matter here. It's a 2 wide receiver, 1 flex format. So I love this. 100%. Go and get Jahmyr Gibbs and Jaden Daniels. Now, Blake Name says, should I make this trade? We're currently 4-0. Etienne to Egbuka, upgrade. Quentin Johnson and Brian Thomas, upgrade. So for my rankings, yes, I would do this. Couple hesitations I have with it. 1, Quentin Johnson's been 10,000 times better than Brian Thomas so far this year. And 2, with that in mind as well, Egbuka in the long term for a 4-0 team, I think it's going to be a little bit worse than he is in the short term, considering the fact that you'll eventually get back both Godwin and Evans healthy at the same time. But yeah, I think we go with Egbuka and Brian Thomas. Now, Wes says, my receiver room's weak. No standout wide receiver 1. Is this worth it? Running back, we'd have CMC, Achane, Jordan Mason. And we are dealing with the Evans injury, but it's a 10-team league. So assuming that we are, the only instance I don't make this deal is if you're 1-3, 0-4. So if you're 1-3, 0-4, you really should be optimizing for points in your lineup right now. And we already have the Mike Evans injury. So it may be tough for us to go through and for us to take CeeDee Lamb. But assuming that you at least have 2 wins, this is for sure a good spot to just take the upgrade. Now, Danny trading Egbuka for Olave and Pittman. So clear downgrade. 99% of the teams, you would not want to do this at all, but it's a 14-team format, so I understand where you're coming from. Looking at what we have with the starting lineup, we have 2 startable running backs. We have Adams, and then I guess Egbuka as our wide receiver 2. Then we have Diggs there in the flex. So I will say the value side of this, in my opinion, is pretty clearly on the side of Egbuka. However, considering your league settings, I would be A-okay if you wanted to make this move to get Olave and Pittman. Again, I would opt to say, like, you probably should try to get more value if you can. Keeper Wet says 3-1, thinking about this trade or Pickens for Rice. I would 3-1. If you're 4-0, I'd trade Pickens for Rice. 3-1 maybe is a little bit closer. Bo Nix and Deebo Samuel for Jaden Daniels, though. I think, yeah, 10-team, 2 wide receiver, 1 flex format. Just go out there and get the upgrade. I think you can run it. Now, Tanner says, thoughts? I thought it was intriguing. Barkley to James Cook, slight downgrade. We have them RB5, RB6 respectively. Obviously, James Cook's been much better so far this year. A.J. Brown to Tyler Warren, slight upgrade. Pittman and Swift for Rashee Rice. If you have a winning record, I think this is a fine deal to make. Losing team, I went the Barkley side. Winning team, I went the James Cook side. In the short term, wide receiver would be starting JSN and Flowers. Like, even in the short term, you'd be able to get by. 8-team league. So, like, you are really just chasing the highest ceiling possible. So, 8-team league, guys like Pittman and Swift don't matter the way that they would in a 12-teamer. Okay. Now, let's move this over to our next one. This is going to be coming out from Caveman Lawyer. Always happy to see you. Trading Hunter and Marv for Rashee Rice. Leftover receiver, we would have Brian Thomas, Xavier Worthy, London. So we have plenty of production here in the short term. We have a running back we can throw in the flex. So yeah, 2 wide receiver, 1 flex league. I think you go ahead and you get Rashee Rice here. Like Travis Hunter looks like he is not going to be startable anytime soon. Okay. Now, let's move over to our next one. F8 Finessers can afford to make a trade for Puka. If so, should I? Yes. Yeah, your team's loaded. I would go ahead and make this deal. The only hesitation is depth's going to matter a lot in your league. But the 2 players at the moment that if you can trade for them, you do it no matter what, will be Puka Nacua and Christian McCaffrey. It is almost impossible to lose a trade if you are trading for Puka or CMC. You want to 100% go for it. Okay. Now let's move this over to our next one. This is going to be Bear Maulings. 4-0 hunting for trades to lock it up. Any ideas? 4-0 team. I would love to try to send like Debo and a marginal depth piece like ETN to try to get to Rashee Rice. House of Spurs trading Scat to get Kamara and Lad McConkey. I have Cam Scattaboo on my own team, and I'd rather have Lad McConkey, to be honest. So, yeah, I'd probably go ahead. I'd probably take the Kamara. I'm sorry, I have Scat, and I'd rather have Kamara. Let me walk that back. I'd rather have Scat over Lad McConkey. But I take the Lad and Kamara side here pretty easily. Okay. Now, our next question is Wilson Cupboardson trading Trey Benson, Tet Egbuka for Jonathan Taylor. 10-team, 2 receiver, 1 flex league. Long term, you take this deal and you run. Short term, when you have no Lamb and you have no Rice, you kind of need the wide receiver depth. Again, long term, I like this, but it's going to put you in a really tough spot over the next few weeks. So if you could wait until we get back one of those receivers, and hell yeah, go for it. Okay, so now our next one is going to be coming out from Tyler, trading Scat Worthy for Tet. We don't need Scat. We have Barkley and CMC. We'd have Tet, Rome. We don't need Tet either. I would say running back depth's actually a little bit more important in your league, but in general, you have such a strong roster. I like the idea of making a 2-for-1 deal to up tier. So I like this. I don't love it. I would love it is if your 2-for-1 up tier was for a running back rather than a wide receiver. That would be my preference here. Now, your friendly neighbor says, my team's a mess. Should we give up? You have to sell Mike Evans for a player that's playing right now. I wouldn't give up. I'd give up on thinking about long-term value, and I would only focus in on points in the short term. Like, that's a big transition that we would make. Now, I hate Saquon with our next team. Says, sell high. If so, who's an example of who? Nope, I would not sell Ashton Genty high. Great running back talent. Great week. Rookie. I think it was natural that he was going to disappoint in the first few weeks. Do I expect him to score 3 touchdowns every single week going into the future? Of course not. But Ashton Genty is not a player that you should be trying to sell high. Idris says, I'm 4-0, maybe 3-1, lost neighbors. What should we do? I would go ahead and you have Rashee Rice, so I'd just sit on your hands and wait for Rashee Rice to come back. Now, J-Mac trading Judkins Pickens for Jamar Chase. I would very easily take Jamar here, assuming we have the running back depth, which we do. It's a 2 wide receiver, 1 flex format. We're very clearly, we just want to be making those 2-for-1 deals to get improvements inside the starting lineup. Now, it looks like we just hit 700 likes on the stream, so let's go ahead and let's send out some free questions in the chat. Again, all you got to do to get those free questions, which we are sending out in every single stream that we do, will be drop a like on the live stream, be subscribed to the channel, and if you obviously have to drop in your flockfantasy.com username in the account. So if you win, I know who to send it to. But if you want to get guaranteed free questions, you can do so by taking advantage of the offer that's currently on Underdog Fantasy, where if you go over to Underdog Fantasy and use code FLOCK, you are going to get free questions for the live streams that we are doing every single night on this channel. And on top of that, you will get the biggest promo that Underdog Fantasy has done since I've been working with them over the past 5 years. I've been the only sponsor of this channel, and I've never seen them do anything like this. After you play your first $5, you get $100 added to your account. Yes, after you play your first 5, you get $100 added to your account with code FLOCK. You get free questions for this stream. And on top of that, you get a free Bo Nix pick, more than less than half a total yard. Underdog Fantasy is available in almost every single state. You can find the link in the description and comment section. But let's send out some free questions for some winners right now. This first one is going to be from Juice Willis. Okay. Let's see if I can find you, my friends. Juice Willis, just found you on the site and just sent you over that free trade question. Really appreciate you hanging out with us in this live stream. And let's send this over to our next one, which is going to be Average Kyron Enjoyer with the Fighting Irish. Love to see it. Average Kyron, I cannot find you on the site. I don't know if you use code FLOCK when you signed up. If not, you can add that to your account page. That way, the next time you win something, I can find you and send you something over. Let me send this instead to Bennett Glass. So just found you and just sent you over that free trade question. Really appreciate you hanging out with us in this stream. Okay, let's move over to our next question. It's going to be a super message. It says, do I drop Algier for Woody Marks? Yes, I would drop Tyler Algier for Woody Marks. Mavium, always happy to see us, says, lost neighbors and dropped to 1-3, bottom of points score. Do I try to trade for a quarterback or a better wide receiver or the waiver hunt? Jennings, Judy, Coleman, Higgins. Since this is a trade, I can't see your waivers. I will say if Jennings is out there, I would like to pick him up, but you have no players that you could drop here. Realistically speaking, 8-team, 2 wide receiver, 1 flex format. I think what we got to do at this point is you have to sell some of this running back depth. You have to try to send Brees and Metcalf, Benson and A.J. Brown, Kyron and Jacoby Myers. Any deal where we're selling a running back with a wide receiver piece to get an upgrade at wide receiver is going to be how we go about that, because it's such a shallow 8-team format. Realistically, it's not going to be super easy for us to be able to go through and for us to be able to just pick up like Jawan Jennings and play Jennings in the flex spot, because all teams are going to be incredibly strong here. But I think that's all I got for you. I really appreciate you. And of course, always happy to see you, my guy. Now, K-Tad says, this or Brown and Igbuka for JT or Jordan Mason? Thank you. Brown and Igbuka for JT. What would we have left over at wide receiver? We don't have a ton of wide receiver left. I don't think you can trade. I don't think you can do the other one. I think you just make this trade. I'd sell Walker and Avante Adams for Jonathan Taylor, especially if you pick up JMO just as a depth piece. Now, Milver Duggo. And, I need to log out and log back in. Give me 1 second to do just that. Perfect. Just did that. Let's go ahead, pull these questions back up. God, I am freaking starving. I'm so damn hungry. But let's go back to the quick questions, and then we'll go over and we'll check out some team reviews because we have some team reviews that we need to get through as well. Okay. Let's see. And actually, I got to send a message to the devs real quick. I've noticed something is wrong with the... Something's wrong with something here. Let's move this back. This is Milver Duggo. Says, I'm 1-3. I was planning to propose Brian Thomas Jr. for Zay and Kincaid for Ferg. I'd way rather have Ferg over Kincaid. But, like, I think you're, like, the thing is, Elikeo Manor, I understand he's probably the wide receiver one in Tennessee. He looks like he's a good player as well. But the Titans offense scored 0 points this past week. Like, how can I be that excited to tell you to go and trade for Ayo Manor? So, I would honestly opt to stay with the Xavier Worthy side of this. I understand being 1-3, like being able to go through and pick up Jake Ferg is really nice because Ferg with no Lamb is going to be a significant upgrade over Kincaid. But once Lamb comes back, I think Ferg is going to fall a bit. So, yeah, I may prefer Worthy here, to be honest. And then looking at Brian Thomas Jr. for Zay, like, if you're out on Brian Thomas Jr., not going to fault you for making that. Wiggy Dependency says, Puka owner has no running back too. Do I try it? Yeah, I would rather have Puka Nacua over Bijan Robinson if you have the running back production. The two assets that are by far and away the best pieces in fantasy football at the moment are McCaffrey and Puka. Like, they are the two guys that cannot be touched. So if you get any opportunity, almost regardless of what the cost is, to go ahead and trade for Puka Nacua, you go for it. Okay. Now, next question. This is from D's Nuts. Says, I traded Kincaid for RJ and Shakir for AJ Brown. Oh my gosh. How down bad are the AJ Brown drafters? We saw somebody trade Woody Marks for AJ Brown, and now trading Shakir for AJ Brown is unbelievable. Congrats. You just robbed them? Like, if I saw that go down in the Flock League, I would clown so hard on whoever traded away AJ Brown. Like, great deal there. I am completely fine with the Kincaid deal, assuming that we have a viable tight end, of course. But let me mark that completes, and let's go over. Let me make sure I have it set up where you can send free questions in on the site if you have a voucher. Okay, I had them set up wrong. So we just turned it where if you have a free voucher, you can submit a start sit or trade question. But other than that, we have the team reviews that we need to get through. So let's spend some time looking at those. Okay, this next team review is going to be coming out from Burning Berries, who says, 2-player keeper league, 3-1 so far. Trades to improve the team or stay put. Thinking CMC or Rice owners, being that they are in a win now situation due to records or injury. Need to, I'm assuming you mean not CMC. I'm assuming you mean Lamb. Need to keep up with some strong teams. Thank you for the insight and being a great fantasy football resource. Really appreciate you, my friend. I will say before we dive into anything here, in terms of this being a keeper league, realistically, if you only keep 2 players, Um, I would. Here, wait 1 second. I would just treat it as if it's a redraft format. You'll always have two players that you want to keep, right? I would say 5+ keepers is when you begin to think about the long-term value with these guys. But we are straight out of Hampton. We are 3-1. We are near the very top of the league analyzer in terms of value. Like, there's only one other team that's remotely close to us. It's a league in which you can, oh my God, look at this freaking team. You can start 4 wide receivers weekly. So the wide receiver depth matters. And look at what we have. Puka, Nico, London, Rome. Tet is our wide receiver 5. This is literally insane. Jake Ferg's been crushing. Quarterbacks here. Here's the thing. I know, thinking like, oh, let's get cute with it. Let's go and trade for Rashee Rice. Let's go maybe trade for CeeDee Lamb. And sure, if you can flip London for Lamb, if that team needs some points now, let's do it. Flip Nico Collins for Lamb. Let's do it. But you don't need to be trading for a wide receiver. That shouldn't be where our eyes are set. The only thing realistically that your team could potentially even begin to consider doing is trading away one of the wide receivers and getting an upgrade inside the starting lineup at quarterback, tight end, or running back. Now, I know Rome Odunze is on the bye this week. I also believe that Drake London is on the bye as well. And for that reason, I'm not wanting to make this trade this week. I think that you actually need to hold on to Tet. You need to have that long-term value. So with what I'm wanting to do with your team for now is you ride out this next week. You probably go to 4-1. And then afterwards, once London and Rome are already through their bye, let's see if we can send Nico Collins and Jordan Mason and get a true elite level running back. Let's see if we can sell Nico Collins and Kyler Murray and get Josh Allen. Let's see if you could sell Nico Collins and Jordan Mason, or Drake London, and it doesn't matter. Drake London, Rome Odunze, Ted McMillan, and Jordan Mason, and go get a running back upgrade. As especially like, say you trade away Tet and Jake Ferg for Trey McBride, right? If we wait to do that in week 6 and you've already had London and you've already had Rome go through the bye weeks, and then you have Devonta Smith as your wide receiver 5, and you're able to jam 4 of these wide receivers into your lineup every week, who the hell can contend with you? Who can compete with you? Like, your team is unbelievably loaded here. So I get it. And like I said, I would make those small pivots to Rice. I would make that small pivot over to Lamb. But that's not necessarily the number one thing on my mind. That's not necessarily the top thing I would be looking to do here. And instead, my preference, if possible, would be after we get through the bye weeks for a couple of these guys, could we potentially go ahead and look to sell Tet and get an elite quarterback, get an elite tight end by packaging them with somebody like Jake Ferg? But I really appreciate you and wish I had more for you, my friend. But this is an unbelievable team. If it was a 2 wide receiver, 1 flex format, I would be scrambling trying to make a bunch of other trades. But because you can start 4 wide receivers here weekly, I really like it. So let me send you over some free questions just in case there's anything else that you want to follow up with. I'd be super happy to take a look at it for you. Now let's move over to our next question. It's going to be from It's Archie. It says, what's up, bro? I know I'm 3-0, about to be 4-1. I'm assuming either meant 3-1 or 4-0. But regardless, 4-0, 3-1, tomato, tomato. We're in a spot in which we are looking to build around long-term upside. Looking at what we have, the tight end positions in the gutter, and Henry's killing us. Thinking about selling him off, name, and upgrading at running back or other spots, please help. So I may or may not have said to sell Derrick Henry once or twice in the past. And it may or may not have as absolutely killed me, right? So I am hesitant to ever say out loud on a live stream again, yes, let's sell Derrick Henry. Now, tight end, we are garbage in this league. Literal garbage. We have Gadsden and we have Likely. Quarterback, we have Lamar. So absolutely love to see it. Operating under the assumption that Lamar Jackson is good to go. Running back, Derrick Henry, in my opinion, is still a top 14 running back rest of season. So in a 14-team league, I'm still fine with Derrick Henry as my RB1. I still love Trey Benson as my RB2. And then we go ahead and look at Trevion Henderson as running back 3 in a 14-team league where we are currently sitting at 3-1 or 4-0, like where we can think long-term upside. Clearly, we love having Trevion there. Going over to wide receivers, St. Brown wide receiver 1, love to see it. Olave wide receiver 2, Evans wide receiver 2/3 in the long term. We have JMO in the short term. Then we have a couple rookies like Hunter and Luther Burden for the long-term upside. So very similar to what we have at running back. Wide receivers, a room that is going to get better as time goes on with both the rookies and Mike Evans getting healthier. Then we go ahead and we look at what we have at tight end where we have Isaiah Likely. So here's the thing. Like I would say there are waiver wire pivots on to make right now. I cut Troy Franklin. I pick up Tyler Algier. If Loveland's practicing and if Loveland looks like he's going to play, actually, no, never mind. Yeah, I have the bye week next week. So I'd keep Loveland on waivers. Coming out of the bye week, I'd probably pick up Loveland, drop Gadsden, and hope that Loveland actually breaks out. But I think, like, again, you know my personal preference. You know I'm not a Derrick Henry guy. So realistically, I would sign off, yes, let's go through and let's sell Derrick Henry. But now's probably not the best time to be doing so, right? And you know what I just thought of that will be hilarious? Let me grab a screenshot of my week 2 running back rankings where I put Derrick Henry as the RB1. And oh dear God, that must have aged so poorly. I mean, it's been all downhill from there. Triple his involvement from last week. You had 106. Oh dear God, this is embarrassing. But anyway, looking at what we have with like selling Henry, if you could pivot off and get to a running back that's going to catch the ball like Achane, get to Hampton, get to Genty, let's do it. But much easier said than done. Like, I don't know who's going out there and buying low on Derrick Henry right now, especially with the injuries that we have in that offense to Lamar Jackson. Which hopefully Lamar is good. This team kind of needs Lamar to be okay there. I think what this team does is you keep it stupid simple. You wait for the rookies to continue to get better. You wait for Mike Evans to come back. Once you have a rookie breakout or Mike Evans is back, then at that point, we look to go ahead and we sell a wide receiver like Chris Olave for a viable tight end and just go and sell Olave for somebody like Jake Ferg. You could also look to sell Mike Evans for just like George Kittle right now, if that team would be willing. Obviously, that wouldn't impact us in the short term, and it would put us in a better spot positionally in the long term. But you're either a 3-0 or 4-0 team. The team's going to get better over time. We need a better tight end. I want to sell a depth wide receiver for a tight end here, but frankly, you're just not going to be able to because we are dealing with the Evans injury and we are waiting for the rookies to break out. But I really appreciate you and really hope I was able to help you out in some way with this. And let me send you over some free questions just in case there's anything else that you want to follow up with. But that's just an incredible team in a 14-teamer. Now, let's move this over to our next question, which is going to come out from Vader, longtime member of the flock. Always happy to see you. Says, hey, Mason, not sure who to trade or to trade for. I have too many receivers, especially with Rice coming back. Should I try to upgrade at quarterback or running back? Thank you. Okay. So we are 1-2 coming into this week. I'm assuming we started Ginty and Judkins and then Amon-Ra St. Brown and Pickens. So there's no way we did not win this week, right? This team realistically should be 2-2 at this point. We are second in the league when it comes to value. It's a league in which you can only start 2 receivers in a flex. So I am in full agreement that the wide receiver depth doesn't matter much. We have Rashee Rice coming back in. Rice is like our wide receiver 4 at this point. So realistically speaking, I think selling wide receiver depth to get upgrades elsewhere would be phenomenal. So many different ways that you can be going about this. If you could go through and if you could trade like Devontae Adams and Drake May to get to a true elite level quarterback, let's do it. If you can get to Allen, if you can get to Lamar, 100%. If you could send Devontae Adams and Ashton Ginty to go get to one of those top round 1 RBs like Bijan, CMC, Gibbs, Barkley, let's do it. If you could trade Marv and Quinshawn Judkins to get to a running back with a comparable workload in a better offense, let's do it. I would also consider in a league like yours where it's a 2 receiver, 1 flex format where we have this many wide receivers, this much depth. I would probably go ahead and consider dropping Stephon Diggs in favor of Woody Marks just to give yourself another bite at the apple if we needed help at RB, because obviously we're never going to need Stephon Diggs on this team. We have the elite tight end with Trey McBride. So I'm in 100% agreement with you. Let's sell a depth wide receiver. You're not going to be able to sell Diggs. You're not going to be able to sell Hunter. You're not going to be able to sell Brandon Ayuk for anything. The name that you probably have to look to sell is Devontae Adams, somebody that people would actually be excited to trade for. And we try to go get an upgrade at quarterback. We try to go get an upgrade at running back. But your team's phenomenal as it stands. We have the elite tight end with Trey McBride as well. So let me think if there's anything else that we could realistically say with this roster. No. Cut Diggs, pick up Woody Marks, try to sell Adams, try to sell Marv, or try to sell Pickens even. Like if you could sell Pickens and May to get to Josh Allen, let's go for it. Even though Pickens obviously is absolutely crushing, long-term you'll have Adams and Rice. So Lucas says, I never got my vouchers from signing up from Underdog. Not a huge deal. Just would like a question soon. So like I said, Underdog sends me the email addresses for everybody who signed up with code FLOCK and made at least a $10 deposit the following morning from every time that they've done it. Over the weekend, every morning, I did send that list of email addresses to the dev on flockfantasy.com who's responsible for applying those free vouchers. I don't know if he has been able to yet. I don't know if he was online this weekend. I will be meeting with him tomorrow morning with all the devs of flockfantasy.com, and I will ask them, hey, have we done this yet? And I'm assuming they just didn't have the opportunity to this weekend. So if you use code FLOCK and you made a $10 deposit on Underdog over the past 3 or so days, those free question vouchers should most likely hit your account if they have not already, any minute now or tomorrow morning. But it looks like we just hit 800 likes in the stream. So we do need to go through and we need to send out some free questions. And if you want those free questions, again, all you got to do is drop a like on the stream and drop your flockfantasy.com name in the chat. And I got to see what the dog's barking about. Come on, you can come in. All right. I am sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. Let's send those free questions out. Let's send this over to Crunky real quick. Appreciate you hanging out with us in the live stream. Let me see if I can find you on the site. It's just going to take me a little bit of time. And I will stall by reminding y'all that you can get the free guaranteed questions if you sign up to Underdog Fantasy with promo code FLOCK. Take advantage of their newest offer where it's you play $5, you get $100 out of your account. I have been with Underdog Fantasy for 5 years now. They've been the only sponsor of this channel. And this is the best offer that they've ever had by far. So use code FLOCK. You'll get $100 out of your account after you play your first 5. Plus, you'll get free questions for the streams that we're doing every single day. And on top of that, you will be getting a free Bo Nix pick, more than less than half a total yard for the game tonight. Links in the description, links in the comment section, and live chat. But average Kyron enjoyer, let me see if I can find you. Crunky, I couldn't find you. I don't know if you used code FLOCK. If you didn't, you should be able to add that to your account page on flockfantasy.com like average Kyron enjoyer just did. And now we just sent them over a free trade question. Appreciate you hanging out with us. And let's send this other one over to Nava7. Just found you and just sent you over a free trade question. Really appreciate you hanging out with us on the stream as well. Now let's move this to our next one. This is going to be from Tommy D. Says, hey Mason, my team feels pretty good right now, but are we losing, but going to be losing this week to go to 2-2. What do I do now? Okay. We are scat pack 12 team start 8 format. So the depth is going to matter. Like you need to build around. Okay. Yeah. So this is maybe going to be a tough spot, right? Because you're going to start to combine 6 running backs and wide receivers into your starting lineup here weekly. We have CMC, Chase Brown, Scat looking like 3 guys that we can start. JSN, Olave, and then Evans in the long term, but you don't have Evans in the short term. So effectively, you're just missing a short-term starter. Now, we have a tremendous amount of value on this team, mainly because we have CMC and JSN on the same roster, right? So, like, you are number 1 in the league in terms of value on this team. I think a big thing that we're going to have to do is just kind of wait for Mike Evans to come back. If you were a 0-4 team, if you were 1-3, I think you'd be highly incentivized to go through and try to sell Mike Evans to get points into the starting lineup in the short term here. However, with this instead being a team where you're 2-2, I would try to ride it out with just a bad flex play. Here's the thing that could save this team. If Bucky Irving is going to miss time, I don't think we have a Bucky Irving injury update just yet. I know they said he was going to get an MRI. I don't think we have anything to talk about with him yet. But if Bucky Irving is going to miss time, then at that point, Rachaad White looks like he's going to be a must-start player in your flex. So what I would look to do is I would cut Torrey Horton for Rachaad White immediately. I would also consider cutting Brian Robinson for Tajee Spears. If you could sell Jawan Johnson and Keon Coleman just to get to a viable wide receiver, it doesn't have to be the most exciting name. Could just be somebody like Michael Pittman Jr., just a wide receiver 3. That would be great. I would cut Geno Smith for a handcuff running back. So actually, instead of cutting Brian Robinson, cut Geno Smith and Torrey Horton for the combination of Rachaad White, Tajee Spears. Try to trade Jawan Johnson for a marginal wide receiver in the short term, and then bank on Mike Evans coming back in the long term. And then I don't exactly think that there's going to be anything else that we need to do with this team. Trying to think if there's anything realistically that we could say beyond this. I think the team's fine. If you had a losing record, I'd panic, try to fill that last flex spot, but you can get by with it now. So I think you just make those marginal moves and you just kind of wait for Evans to come back. But let me send you over some free questions just in case there's anything else that you want to follow up with here. I'd be super happy to take a look at it for you. Now, let's see. Lucas says, serious question, Mason. How have you never formed a fandom of any teams? Okay, so I know we've told this story a bunch, but we can talk about it real quick just so I can get a little break and mentally reset from the team reviews. So I think the average experience for the person watching this live stream, or the average fantasy football player's experience, right, is they were a fan of an NFL team like the Dallas Cowboys. Their dad was a Cowboys fan, or they lived in Dallas, so they started rooting for the Dallas Cowboys at 3 years old. And then maybe in middle school, they join a fantasy football league and they start playing fantasy football. They still root for the Dallas Cowboys, but then they also root for their fantasy football players. I grew up in San Antonio, Texas, where we did not have a team. My parents did not watch the NFL. They did not care about the NFL. So as a kid at 3, 4, 5, 6 years old, I wasn't watching NFL games. Never did. Didn't have a team. Didn't care at all. I didn't start watching NFL games until I was probably about like 10 or 11. And my mom asked me if I wanted to do her fantasy football work league with her. I said yes. Got addicted to fantasy football. I started watching the games that my players were actually playing in. And then we went from there. So like from the very beginning, like the reason I got into the NFL was because of fantasy football when I was like 10. Before then, I had no care who won. I had no care who, I didn't care at all. So I got in because of fantasy football. And I didn't grow up where there was an NFL team. I lived in Tampa for a year, so I tried rooting for the Bucs. But at that point, I had spent the past 13 years of my life just only caring about my fantasy football teams. So, yeah, like I think football would be a lot more enjoyable if I did have a team to root for. I'm not saying like, oh, it's better that I don't. It doesn't really matter. But, like I didn't get into the NFL. I feel like how the average person did. I got into the NFL and like watching games because of my fantasy football team. If it wasn't for fantasy, I'm sure I would eventually started watching games, but if it wasn't for fantasy football, I wouldn't have gotten into the NFL for a long, long time. Now Eric says, my guy Mason, check out the squad. Currently 3-1, have lots of depth, looking to make some moves. Okay. Now, 10 team, 2 wide receiver, 1 flex format. So realistically, depth's not going to matter here. Would love having an elite quarterback. Would love having elite tight ends. We are currently number 1 in the league when it comes to value on this roster. And here's the thing. Here's what sucks about a team like this, right? We have the most cumulative value on our team, but so much of that value is going to be on the bench. Like our worst running back is Trevion Henderson. Our worst wide receiver is Chris Godwin. So when you find yourself in this position where you have by far and away the best bench in your league, which it's fine having like 1 really good player on the bench or 2 really good players on the bench, especially as we go through the bye weeks. But if the last player on your bench is great, then you put yourself in a spot where, like, how do you ever make waiver wire moves? How do you ever submit a starting lineup and feel comfortable about it? So I would say you almost went too far in one extreme with the depth side of this. Looking at what we have at quarterback, we have Mahomes and May. Don't get me wrong, they're fine QBs. I moved Mahomes up to my QB5 rest of season now that we have Worthy back, and it looks like we're going to get Rashee Rice back in soon as well. Looking at what we have at running back, we have Jahmyr Gibbs, we have Alvin Kamara, so solid RB1, RB2 combo. We have Benson, great RB3, Hendo, great RB4 here in the long term. We're 3-1, so we should be thinking long term. Wide receiver, we have London. We have Sutton, wide receiver 2 in the short term. We have Pierce. Here's the thing that you got to do. We have to wait until Rashee Rice comes back, or honestly, just wait a week. Like, I can't tell you, like, oh, yeah, you need to go and sell Courtland Sutton right now with Patrick Mahomes to go get to a true elite quarterback. I can't tell you, like, oh, yeah, you really need to sell Trey Benson and Tucker Kraft right now to go and get to a true elite level tight end. Because you are dealing with a multitude of injuries, suspensions, like bye weeks. London's on bye this week. Godwin's not trustworthy yet. Ricky Pearsall just got a knee injury. And Rashee Rice currently suspended. Trevion Henderson not trustworthy yet. So many of these names that are going to be on your bench are long-term pieces. But if we go by 1 week from now, and all of a sudden you're in a spot in which Ricky Pearsall's healthy, London's through the bye, we're only a week away from getting Rashee Rice, then at that point, you need to sell Sutton and Mahomes to get an elite quarterback. You need to sell Sutton and Kamara to get an elite running back. You need to sell Benson and Tucker Kraft to go and get an elite tight end. You'll need to sell one of these exciting players that are on your bench to get an improvement inside the starting lineup so we can open up a roster spot so we have some chances to actually be able to make pivots when it comes to waiver wire options and make it a little bit clearer of how we're submitting our starting lineup every week. But for now, you are in just like a really tough spot, to be honest, because you have so many of these great bench plays. And I would love to transition some of this value on the bench into the starting lineup, but you're maybe just going to have to wait a little bit of time here until we get back some of those players that are either injured, suspended, or going through buys. But I really appreciate you and really hope I was able to help you out in some way with this, my friend. And I'm going to go ahead and send you over some free questions. That way, just in case you want to follow up with anything. And obviously, it goes without saying that selling Drake May and Kamara for a better running back would be great. Selling Laporta and Courtland Sutton for a better wide receiver would be great as well, because obviously we have the expendable value there when we have Mahomes and Kraft. And then it's not even worth looking at waiver wire options. Manny says, how long's the stream for tonight? We're going to be streaming until kickoff, and then we'll be streaming right after the games, of course, giving you the updates of what happens. Now, Marsh Stomper says, hey, Mason, currently just lost, so I'm 2-2. My wide receiver room needs a little help. Was thinking about potential trade. Should I trade JT for an elite wide receiver and an okay running back? What do you think? Loving the live streams, by the way. Really appreciate you, my friend. Here, I will say you're in a good spot. Number 1 in the league in terms of value on the roster. We are 2-2, so we did just drop this past week, but I will say quickly, the wide receiver depth's not going to matter. Depth in general is not going to be super important in this league because it's a league in which you only start 2 receivers in a flex. But for that reason, I love having an elite quarterback. I love having an elite tight end. We have both of that with the combination of Lamar Jackson as well as Tyler Warren. Looking over at what we have with running back, we have Bijan Robinson, Jonathan Taylor. So in general, I actually love having these two running backs in this kind of league. With these league settings, this is why we're the number one team in the league analyzer. I would say, like, I like the idea of, on top of this, continuing to roster some handcuff running backs, where if an injury were to occur in front of somebody like Rachaad White, with Bucky Irving getting the MRI, then all of a sudden Rachaad White could turn into just an every week starter for you. That's a no-brainer. So I would actually look to go ahead. I would probably cut Harold Fannin when you have Tyler Warren. And Tyler Warren's going to be a player that we can start every single week, kind of regardless of the matchup here. I would cut Fannin. I would pick up Rachaad White to continue to bolster the running back depth, because in a league like this, you hit on Rachaad White to put in your flex if you have a Bucky Irving injury. Could move the needle. Going over to receiver, we have A.J. Brown, we have Marv, we have Worthy, we have Ricky Pearsall, we have Devonta Smith, we have Scary Terry. So the thing is, this is, it's built as if it's a... It's built as if it's a best ball league, right? Like, randomly, every single week, two of these wide receivers are going to be great. The issue is going to be, how are you figuring out which of these players to get in your starting lineup? So if you're down tiering from Taylor to get another wide receiver and another running, I don't like that idea. Any trade we make in this 10-team, 2 wide receiver, 1 flex league, you are selling the depth to get upgrades inside the starting lineup. I mean, it kind of goes without saying. It's kind of obvious, but I mean, if you can go Worthy and Harrison for a better receiver, Pearsall and Brown for a better receiver, Devonta Smith and Terry McLaurin for a better wide receiver, those are the trades we make. It's much easier said than done in this league. I completely understand that. But the last thing that I would want to do is down tier from like one of the elite players like Bijan or JT, just pick up an additional wide receiver starter. I know that wide receiver obviously would be much better. It'd be somebody like Jettas, but you're loaded here. I think the only thing that you could do is up tiers at wide receiver, drop Fannin for Rachaad White, and hold on to Bijan and Jonathan Taylor for dear life. But I really appreciate you and really hope I was able to help you out in some way with this. Let me go ahead and send you over some free questions just in case there's anything that you want to follow up with. Now, let me move over and let's see if we have any more quick questions coming in that we need to answer right now from the people that had the free question vouchers. Let's see. Yes, there are some of these questions. Beef says, down bad at 1-3. Have a few options at quarterback. Which is the best? And are there any moves we could make to save the season? Love you long time. Much love, my friend. My guy, I can't see who is on your waiver wire in terms of this because it's a start sit question, not a roster review. I'll say as a generality, yeah, Chief, I'm not super excited about the idea of rolling out Jackson Dart or Geno Smith. Like, you don't have a depth wide receiver you could sell. You don't really have a depth running back that you could sell. So starting lineup wise, like, this is how your team's going to look going into the future. In terms of what we have to do is just waiver wire pivots. Like, I don't see a single expendable piece that people would trade for unless you wanted to send Quentin Johnston and Jackson Dart or Quentin Johnston and Geno Smith to try to get a great QB. But yeah, I wish I had something for you, but I think you just got to play the waiver wire and stream quarterbacks. Okay. Now let's move this over to our next one. This is going to be from Bennett. Says, I'm 0-4 and he offered this. What are your thoughts or any other moves? A.J. Brown to Tyreek. We'll see what Tyreek does. Maybe an upgrade. I don't know. Just call it a lateral move. Would I rather have Genty and Rome or St. Brown and Benson? Probably St. Brown. I'd probably take the St. Brown side. Here's the thing. I think this trade's honestly going to come down to your personal preference. I'm fine with you making it. I don't necessarily see how this, like, it matters what our record is. One thing I'll say for sure is I know that we're not going to want to make the trade based off Rome Odunze just being in his bye week and you don't want to lose this week because all these other players still going to have to go through their buys, right? So don't be making a trade in week 5 based off buys. The only time you should consider buys in a trade is if a player's already gone through it or not. No players have gone through their bye yet. So you're getting the same amount of games played from all these guys. I don't know if that's your motivation in the deal, but I think that kind of deal is a personal preference. And the bye week of Rome at this point has no impact on us. Now, Jay Stark says, completed the trade. What's the Hawk value? Sutton, go Harrison. No idea what that last part means. TJ Hawkinson value is nothing, if that's what you're asking. Lamar Jackson in a dynasty league versus Daniels in a first. Love it. Benson and Godwin for Chase Brown a second. Completely fine with it. I would try to flip Chase Brown from here if you're a rebuilding roster. But in general, if you're a rebuilding team, I think this was a great deal. 13 Finch Mike trading London for Rice and May. Get an upgraded quarterback. If you are, dear God, I don't know if you can make this deal with the Ricky Pearsall injury. If you're 4-0, sure, go for it. But it's not like you have a ton of wide receiver depth at the moment. So it is a little tough there, to be honest. Okay, let's see if I can refresh this. This is Waddle's 10, Derrick Henry versus Adams and Swift. How down bad are you? Well, yeah, you are. I know you have JSN and Sutton. I didn't see them. Your wide receiver room's fine. Again, it is obvious I'm not a big Derrick Henry guy, but I'd be scared to tell you to trade away Derrick Henry for Adams and DeAndre Swift. Okay. Now let's move this to the other end. Mr. Filthy Wubs says, got sent this on Sunday. I'm 0-3, yay or nay? In general, I'd rather have I'd rather have Debo and Quentin Johnson. You have enough running back depth. So yeah, I'll say 0-3. Like I'd probably rather, like Dobbins is a player that I like, but I don't know. I just think the value is too much to pass up on. You have enough production at running back. Let me refresh this. Kickoffs in like what, 15 minutes? Let me see. And as I do that, I will remind y'all that if y'all wanted to get free question vouchers guaranteed for these live streams, the easiest way to do that is taking advantage of the offer that's currently available on Underdog Fantasy, where if you go over to Underdog Fantasy and use promo code FLOCK, you are going to be getting $100 added to your account after you play your first 5. I have been with Underdog Fantasy for 5 years. I mean, y'all know this. I'm sure most people here could agree with this. And they have never done anything remotely close to this good of an offer. Or play your first 5, get $100 added in. And on top of that, you'll get free questions for these live streams with code FLOCK. And you'll get a free Bo Nix pick tonight, more than less than half a total yard for that game as well. The link's in the description, the link's in the comment section, and the link is in the live chat. And Underdog's available in almost every state as well. Now here, Clem trading Scat upgrading to Taylor, London upgrading to JSN, and paying Ricky Pearsall and Igbuka to get it done in a 10-team league. So yes, I would go ahead, and yes, I would get Jonathan Taylor and JSN here. But I think we are probably going to call it here because I need to get some food before the game starts so I can watch the games. And I am starving Marvin. So appreciate y'all hanging out with us. I'll be live after the games tonight talking about everything that happened. So again, I would really hope I get to see you in that live stream. We'll have a lot to talk about since there are 2 games. We'll be updating the rankings. So just make sure you're subscribed to the channel. And I'll see you after.